Welcome back to our Westwood One studios. I'm Kevin Kugler. Tonight, it's another edition of great NFL postseason games. The January 1993 wildcard game between the Houston Oilers and the Buffalo Bills. By the way, for those of you too young to remember the likes of Earl Campbell or Warren Moon, the Houston Oilers were one of the original AFL franchises. 5 years after this game, they relocated to Tennessee and, of course, are now known as the Tennessee Titans. Anyway, it was a typical blustery afternoon in Orchard Park, New York, and that would play a factor. It's time for the opening kickoff, sponsored by Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds, a new kind of snack. High protein, low carb, keto friendly. What are you waiting for? Grab a bag in the snack food aisle or visit porkrinds.com. With the call, here's Howard David and Pat Haden.
The winds are moving at a brisk pace, 16 to 24 miles an hour. The temperature at game time at 41 degrees. But the weather is not the big story. It's the absence of Jim Kelly for Buffalo and the return of Warren Moon for the Houston Oilers. The Oilers, you'd have to say, based on the injury factor, would be the favorite team to win today. However, the last road team to win an AFC playoff game was 1989 when Pittsburgh won in Houston 26-23. That's a string of 14 straight losses for the visiting team in the AFC playoffs.
But you're right. If anybody's going to break that string, I believe it's going to be the Oilers because of the absence of Jim Kelly. Furthermore, this Oiler defense has played sensationally the last 7 weeks of the season, particularly guys like Ray Childress, who's got 13 sacks, 2 last week against the Bills. Bubba McDowell, the strong safety. Chris Dishman. I mean, these guys have really played very, very well. And for today, for the Bills, Thurman Thomas even has to be more of a factor, Howard.
Webster Slaughter has a fractured hand. He will play, but he'll not return kickoffs or punts. Gary Brown, in his second year from Penn State, is back deep with Spencer Tillman, awaiting the game's kickoff. Steve Christie will kick it off for the Buffalo Bills. And along with New Orleans, the best home field advantage probably in the NFL is right here at Rich Stadium in Buffalo. It's not sold out, but there's still nearly 78,000 people here. Short kickoff into the wind. Spencer Tillman to the 20-yard line. And that's where he gets knocked down. We'll set up the Buffalo defense first. Phil Hansen, Jeff Reich, Bruce Smith across the front. Smith not 100%, but he's playing. Darryl Talley, Carlton Bailey, Shane Conlon, Marcus Patton, the linebackers, and a secondary of James Williams, Henry Jones, Mark Kelso, and Nate Odoms. The Houston offensive line. Maggs and Williams the tackles, Munchak and Dawson the guards, and Matthews the center. And Warren Moon at quarterback with Lorenzo White behind him. The receivers are Gibbons, Jeffries, and Duncan. And the noise level, as you can hear, is high, and Moon's going to put it up on first down. A diving catch by Duncan to the near side for only a couple of yards in front of James Williams.
6 defensive backs the Bills started with, Howard, in a dime defense. And because of the crowd noise, Warren Moon, who tried to audible that time, is using hand signals. Then the audible is conveyed to the inside slot receiver, that time Ernest Gibbons, who relays the audible to the outside receivers.
Kurt Schultz is in the game now in the defensive secondary for Buffalo. 2nd down and 7. Lorenzo White has to get in behind close to Moon to hear the signals. They are difficult to hear. Moon rolls left, throws left, and makes the connection. And going out of bounds with the reception. I thought that might have been Webster Slaughter, 89. And that is the receiver. Webster Slaughter is nursing a slightly fractured hand, his right hand, and he's wearing a soft cast to protect it.
Well, as we mentioned, the Bills started that 6 defensive back set. They are trying to blitz with those defensive backs. That time, Clifford Hicks, a corner, came off the backside, but the right guard, Doug Dawson, did a great job of pulling out and protecting Warren Moon's backside as he was able to deliver the ball to Webster Slaughter.
Jeffries to the left, Duncan and Slaughter to the right. Duncan in motion to the far side. 1st and 10, Houston at the 30. Back goes Moon, rolling right, running with the ball to the near sideline and bumped out of bounds for a loss on the play of a couple of yards. Bill Hansen chased him out. with Jeff Reich, the nose tackle. Phil Hansen had a terrific game last week with Houston as he had a couple of sacks in the ball game.
Well, he's had a sack in 6 straight games for the Buffalo Bills. This Bill defense, I mean, both the defenses in this game today, I think really are the featured element. We've talked somewhat about the quarterbacks. You forget how good the defenses have been. The Buffalo Bills have been terrific stopping the run in particular. They've only given up 4 runs of 20 yards or more all season.
A loss of 2 on the play. It is 2nd down and 12 for Houston from their own 28. Play clock is down to 3, to 2, to 1, and Moon just gets it off. Scrambling out of the pocket and sliding shy of the 35-yard line. Phil Hansen flushed him out of the pocket, and Warren Moon advances to about the 33 is where they mark it. So it'll be a gain of 5 on the play and a 3rd and long coming up for Houston.
Well, this opening series by the Houston Oilers has been characterized by a very strong pass rush by the Buffalo Bills. Phil Hansen and Bruce Smith in particular have gotten deep into the backfield around Warren Moon. Now he faces his first 3rd and long of the game.
He sends Jeffries left, Duncan right, Slaughter in the slot to the right with Ernest Gibbons. And Lorenzo White hasn't touched it yet. 3rd down and 8. Bills are coming after Warren Moon. He goes back to throw. Lobs it deep down the middle of the field, and Haywood Jeffries makes a leaping grab at the 35 of Buffalo for a big first down play in front of Nate Odoms and Mark Kelso, a 32-yard gain.
And you like the size matchup. Haywood Jeffries at 6'2", and Nate Odoms under 6 feet. It was Warren Moon as he rolled to his left, threw a beautiful pass down the left side as Haywood Jeffries up among 2 defenders just leapt up, grabbed it at the very height of the throw, the arch of the throw, in between the 2 defenders for the first down.
Jeffries to the left. Moon now 3 for 3 for 43 yards. 32 on that one play. Bills look like they want to come after Warren Moon, put pressure on him. He hands off to Lorenzo White on the draw. Inside the 35 to the 32-yard line. He gets about 3 or 4 on the play. Again, Buffalo without Cornelius Bennett, without Kirby Jackson. Jackson may play, but we haven't seen him yet.
And speaking of Lorenzo White, who made his first carry of the day, he has had a very big season for the Houston Oilers and largely responsible for their offensive success. Over 1,200 yards rushing. He caught 57 passes. He had 322 handles, Howard, and didn't fumble the ball once, which I think is remarkable.
That's the last stat is the big one. 2nd down and 7. Moon back to throw. Throws it out to the right and connects to the near sideline of Webster Slaughter inside the 30-yard line at about the 28 in front of Mark Kelso. It will set up a 3rd down at about 3 for the Houston Oilers. Each of these teams obviously talent-laden. 9 Pro Bowlers for each squad.
And for a visiting team, which the Houston Oilers are here, this is a perfect opening drive. I mean, you want very much to come out and get something going your opening drive, get your confidence going, take the crowd out of the game if you can. And Warren Moon has mixed it up. He's run the ball once and thrown to 3 different receivers.
It's 3rd down and about 2.5 against the 3-man front. Now they bunch it up just a little bit, Buffalo defensively. Warren Moon hands off to White on the draw play, running to the left, stopped shy of the first down by about a yard or so. Outstanding play by the Buffalo defense, particularly Darryl Talley.
Well, you know, they have a decision about going for a field goal because there is a very stiff wind. A very stiff wind that Al Del Greco would be kicking into. And I believe they're going to go for it because of that reason on 4th and 1.
Yeah, they're kicking into a wind. It is stiff. It's about 20 miles an hour. Mike Lodish is in at nose tackle. Another defensive lineman. He replaces Shane Conlon, who comes out of linebacker. Now it's 4th down and 1 for Houston from the Buffalo 27-yard line against a 6-man front. Play clock is down to 2, and Moon hands off to White. First down, I thought, for the first surge. Second surge, probably got it. He got bumped at the line, went to the outside, and I think made enough for the first down.
That is a terrific 1.5-yard run. and they needed 1 yard. And I want to tell you, he got hit, and it looked like he had it for a moment. He got pushed back. His momentum kept him going and struggled and fought and clawed around the left side, and Lorenzo White picked up the first down. But, you could talk about 40-yard runs and 50-yard runs. That was a great 1.5-yard run.
2 years ago, Lorenzo White was 4th on the depth chart behind Highsmith, Rozier, and Pinkett. And now he's the featured back for the Houston Oilers. 1st and 10, Oilers at the 25 of Buffalo. Moon back to throw. Throws it back to the right, and the pass is short hop at the 20-yard line by Webster Slaughter, who argues that he made the catch. Jeff Reich put enormous pressure on Warren Moon.
I thought it was interesting, even when it was 4th and 1 for the Oilers, the Bills still had 6 defensive backs in.
Warren Moon is 4 of 5. That is his first misfire, and Webster Slaughter contends that it was a completion. But nevertheless, it is 2nd down and 10 for the Oilers. Jeffries to the left, Duncan to the right. Gibbons and Slaughter, the inside receivers, and they haven't gone to Gibbons yet. Warren Moon calling the signals. On the draw to Lorenzo White with room inside the 20, 15, and finally brought down at the 12-yard line by Kurt Schultz. Terrific piece of running and blocking by the Houston Oilers.
Yeah, in particular, Don Maggs, the left tackle, really sealed his man in and allowed Lorenzo White, out of a draw play, as you called it, Howard, pick up the first down. Now, with 1,200 yards rushing, over 1,200 yards, Lorenzo White, he's mostly done that on draws and traps. He's also a very good screen receiver.
Matter of fact, he had 641 receiving yards this year. He had 616 yards total the previous 4 years in terms of catching those screens. 12th play on this drive for the Houston Oilers. 1st and 10. Moon back to throw. Throwing left and connecting with Jeffries inside the 10 to the 5-yard line. They got about 6.5 on the play. Henry Jones, who's had a great year, the strong safety for Buffalo, makes the stop on tall Haywood Jeffries.
Warren Moon's first 3 passes of this drive, he got a big rush out of Bruce Smith and Phil Hansen. The last 3 pass attempts, he's gotten marvelous pass protection by his offensive line. He looked to his right where his 3 wide receivers were. Nothing open there. He came all the way back to the left because of the excellent pass protection and found Haywood Jeffries.
The AFC's leading receiver for the 3rd straight year. 2nd down and 4, Houston. Slaughter in motion to the left side. Warren Moon hands to White straight ahead. Dives to the 3-yard line. Shy of a first down. He is knocked down by Bruce Smith, and that's what you're hearing now, the sound of Bruce.
Is that what that is?
That is. Either that or they were booing us. I'm told that our broadcast can be heard here at Rich Stadium because it's coming from a station in Canada.
Aha. Our windows are open here, too. I thought maybe windows were open in the booth.
We're not talking that loud.
Loudly.
You're talking loudly. I'm talking loud. 3rd down, about 1.5 yards for the Oilers. They have it at the Buffalo 3.
And again, 6 defensive backs in for Buffalo on 3rd and short.
They usually go, obviously, to Lorenzo White. He's the only setback. And instead, Moon's going to put it up. Pump fakes right, has room, throws it into the end zone. Touchdown. A touchdown throw to Haywood Jeffries. And the Oilers have struck here in the first quarter.
And what a magnificent drive by the Oilers, led by Warren Moon. And on the touchdown throw, it was supposed to be a little pass in the right flat to Lorenzo White. They didn't hand him the ball, Howard, but they wanted to get it to him in the right flat. But he was covered. Moon kind of scrambled around to his left side and found Haywood Jeffries right in the middle of the end zone. And Warren Moon in the drive, 6 of 7 for 57 yards.
And Montgomery will hold. Greg Montgomery, normally the punter, is also the holder on placements. And Al Del Greco, who was successful in 41 of 41 tries, makes it 42 straight here in this 92-93 season. And now we're in the 2nd season, and Houston's on top by the score of 7-0.
So a perfect drive by Warren Moon to start things out on the road. 14 plays, 80 yards, taking up just over 9 minutes. Kevin Kugler here in our Progressive Insurance Studios. Progressive's Home Quote Explorer gives you multiple quote options so you can pick what's right for you. See for yourself at Progressive.com. Oilers score first and lead the Bills 7-0. 5:51 left in the first quarter of this 1992 wildcard game. When we come back, it's Frank Reich's first series as a playoff starter. From Westwood One, this is a special encore presentation of the NFL playoffs.
Women now make up 30%.
And the Ad Council.
Well, a perfectly executed drive by the Houston Oilers. They go 14 plays, 80 yards, and more importantly, hold the ball for 9 minutes and 9 seconds. You talked, Pat, at the top about getting the crowd out of the game. They have done that on their first drive.
Yeah, and again, for Warren Moon, it was just what you want to do when you're visiting in the playoffs.
And so the Buffalo Bills. Kenneth Davis on the return at the 10-yard line. He has room on the outside. He's to the 30, to the 40, and bumped out of bounds near the 45. Initially hit by Al Del Greco, the Houston kicker. And so Kenneth Davis gives the Buffalo Bills excellent field position with a 33-yard kickoff return. And Buffalo's Frank Reich hands off straight ahead to Thurman Thomas, who bowls to the 50-yard line. We mentioned Frank Reich. Quickly giving you the offensive line. Will Wolford, Howard Ballard the tackles, Richer and Parker the guards, Hull the center, Andre Reed, James Lofton, and Keith McKellar the receiving corps, and Thurman Thomas behind Frank Reich. Gets the handoff, running left, tripped up behind the line of scrimmage. That's a nice play by Sean Jones, the right defensive end.
You mentioned this Oiler team. I think this is the best Oiler team they've had the last 5 years. And the reason I say that is their defense has played superbly, and they played much better on the road. 5-3 on the road this year. I don't think it's as intimidating for them to play on the road as it has been in years past.
Don Beebe, who was injured last week in Houston, is in the game now as a wide receiver. He suffered a concussion last week, and there was some question as to whether or not he would play today, as if Buffalo needed another injury. Back to passes Reich on 3rd and 5, out to the left and complete to the tight end, Keith McKellar. No, that is Metzelaars, Pete Metzelaars, who makes the reception near the Houston 40-yard line.
You know, Pete Metzelaars has had a big year for the Bills. The Bills, when they have been good, have used their tight end. And the previous 5 years has been Keith McKellar. But this season, because of an injury primarily to McKellar, they've used Metzelaars, 6 touchdowns on 31 catches.
Handoff, Thurman Thomas, knocked down behind the line of scrimmage. Sean Jones found the opening. Let me give you the Houston defense, and it'll change some. We expected to start William Fuller, Lee Williams, Ray Childress, and Doug Smith with Sean Jones. They would alternate. Doug Smith has been reactivated for this game after missing 6 games with a hamstring. Glenn Montgomery also will see some action on the defensive front. And Thurman Thomas inside the 35-yard line, about 4 yards shy of a first down. Steve Jackson made the hit. He is starting in the backfield with Dishman, McDowell, Robertson, and Gray. They are going with 5 defensive backs. I'm talking about the Houston Oilers. There are only 2 linebackers, Eddie Robinson and Al Smith.
If the Bills are going to win this football game, Thurman Thomas will have to have a huge ball game.
3rd down and 5, Buffalo. Right back to throw. Looking left, throwing, and connecting to Andre Reed inside the 20-yard line.
That was a beautiful throw by Frank Reich. Andre Reed lined up as the left slot, and he has made a living over the last 2 years of running crossing routes, and going over the middle that time he did hit perfectly by Frank Reich.
They go again with the no huddle after the completion of 17 yards. From Reich to Reed, out of a shotgun, inside handoff to Thurman Thomas, running behind a wall. Inside the 20 to about the 16-yard line. He is taken down by Al Smith and Marcus Robertson. And a gain of about 3 or 4 on the play. We have 2:25 remaining in the first quarter, and the Houston Oilers leading it by the score of 7-0. Again, the Bills going without a huddle under the leadership of Frank Reich. In for the injured Jim Kelly. He goes out of a shotgun formation, 2nd down and 8, with Thomas alongside. Reich calling the signals, drops back to pass, back to the 25, now running inside the 20 and taken down by his left arm. A nice tackle in the open field by Sean Jones.
Well, Frank Reich faces his third down of this series. The last two he has converted for first downs.
Reich out of his shotgun. 3rd and long, drops back to pass, looking, throwing it into the end zone. It is incomplete. The Buffalo fans wanted pass interference. He was looking for James Lofton, but Chris Dishman, I thought, defended him perfectly.
Yeah, James Lofton lined up on the right side, was running one of those very sharp and short post routes, and Chris Dishman had given him plenty of cushion. The ball was thrown early by Reich. And, you know, as you look at the replay, you're not allowed to bump him past the 5 yards, and it looked like Dishman actually did push Lofton. It wasn't necessarily interference, but he bumped him after that 5-yard zone.
Well, Reich to hold. A 36-yard field goal try for Steve Christie. He finished second to Pete Stoyanovich amongst the scoring in the AFC, and his field goal try is good. So Buffalo's on the board with a 36-yard field goal by Steve Christie. And with 1:24 to go in the first quarter, it's Houston 7, Buffalo 3.
Kevin Kugler back with you in our studios. The Bills get on the board, but Houston's defense holds them to 3 points. We'll get you back to the 1992 wildcard game when we return. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs on Westwood One.
These past several...
It's Northbrook, Illinois.
Webster Slaughter normally returns kickoffs and punts, but because of the fracture of his right hand, he's going to play today and has played thus far. They are making changes. Houston is in terms of their return people. Now going with Gary Brown and Damon Mays. And the ball is driven out of the end zone. And they'll bring it out to the 20-yard line. So Houston will have it for their second offensive possession. Their first one resulted in a touchdown. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs from CBS Radio Sports with Pat Haden. I'm Howard David here in Buffalo's Rich Stadium, where the temperature is about 40 degrees, but the winds are very strong. And right now in the face of the Houston Oilers, did not bother them, Pat, on their first series. They marched right down the field, 14 plays for a touchdown.
Well, it did enter into a decision. Remember, they were at 4th and 1. It would have been a long field goal into the wind. They decided to go for it. They made it and converted it into a touchdown.
Buffalo going with 6 defensive backs and only 1 linebacker who's up on the line of scrimmage. They got a 6-man front, and Moon back to throw out to the right and connecting to Duncan to the near side for about 3.
You're right. The lone linebacker is Darryl Talley in the ballgame. And Darryl Talley's playing what amounts to a middle linebacker position. Ordinarily is an outside linebacker and a very good one for the Buffalo Bills. But because of the run-and-shoot offense, which the Oilers have loaded up 3 receivers on one side and 1 to the other, and the reason they're doing that rather than having 2 and 2 is they're getting a better pre-snap look at the defense.
Oilers beat the Bills 27-3 last week, costing the Bills the AFC Eastern title. Ernest Givens in motion to the left side. And Warren Moon, 2nd and 7 on the draw. Lorenzo White running right across the 25 to the 29-yard line. About a yard shy of a first down. He is knocked down by Phil Hansen, the left defensive end.
Well, Lorenzo White has had his best season ever in the National Football League, and there was a quote in this morning's paper, him saying, the more you give the ball to me, the better I am. And he's one of those backs, as many of them are, when he gets into a rhythm of a ball game, he can be very, very good and control it.
I don't think that Houston wants to run another snap because there's only 7 seconds left in the quarter, and they'll get the wind of their back in the second quarter. And so that is the end of the first quarter with the score. The Houston Oilers 7, the Buffalo Bills 3.
And so that's how a relatively quiet first quarter ended in a game that would be anything but. Kevin Kugler at our Westwood One studios as we replay the 1992 wildcard game between Houston and Buffalo. Of course, we're bringing you these great NFL postseason games to hopefully provide some relief during the current health crisis. We here at Westwood One hope you are staying safe. And in response to COVID-19, the NFL and several of its charitable partners have made digital education and wellness resources available for free. Visit NFL.com/Play60 today and hashtag NFLPlay60 to share how you are staying active at home. The second quarter of this 1992 Wildcard Classic is coming up next. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs on Westwood One. Welcome back to our rebroadcast of the 1992 Wildcard game between the Houston Oilers and Buffalo Bills. I'm Kevin Kugler. Don't forget you can listen to this broadcast and all your other favorite audio with the TuneIn app. TuneIn brings together live sports, music, news, podcasts, and over 100,000 live radio stations from around the world. Listen for free wherever you are when you download the TuneIn app today. Let's get you back to Howard David and Pat Haden for the start of the second quarter. Houston's up 7-3 with the ball at their own 29-yard line. It's 3rd and 1 for Warren Moon and the Oilers offense.
Talley, the linebacker, right up on the line. The handoff to White, running left, first down and more to near the 35-yard line. Bruce Smith is there to knock down Lorenzo White. They pinched it in inside, and White went to the outside.
You know, Howard, as we start the second quarter, I just noticed an anachronism, which I don't understand why the NFL still does it. At the end of the quarter, the old side judge comes out with the starter's pistol and, boom, shoots the gun at the end of the first quarter. Everybody in the stadium is watching the clock. Why do they do that?
Well, the biggest question is the gun in a holster?
They had some guy come in off the sideline and hand him one.
You do make observations.
Thank you.
Webster Slaughter in motion to the right. Moon back to throw. Wants it all. Deep down the left for Haywood Jeffries with a grab to the near sideline. Is it inbounds? No, I think he stepped out. He had 1 foot down and 1 foot out.
Yeah, and I think Haywood Jeffries got away with a little offensive interference. It looked like he was pushing the defensive back Nate Odoms down the left side. But twice now on the same route they've gone deep. Earlier in the first quarter they completed it. This one he caught. He just got it looked like just a 1 foot in.
This is the 7th time in NFL history that two teams met in regular season finale and then met the following week in playoff games. Of course, Houston now with a 27-3 win over Buffalo last week, trying to do it here in Buffalo. 2nd down and 10. Warren Moon back to throw, looking over the middle, throwing it, and making the reception inside the 45-yard line to Ernest Givens, who makes his first grab of the day in front of Henry Jones, the strong safety, a 24-yard gain.
Warren Moon has been sensational thus far in this game. I mean, his team leads 7-3, 13:50 remaining in the second quarter. But he's used 3 different receivers as wide receivers. He's mixed it up with some draws and some inside traps with Lorenzo White. He's thrown the ball deep a couple times to Haywood Jeffries. He's thrown it short to Haywood Jeffries. And that time, Ernest Givens on a crossing route.
Oilers have 4 of the top 10 receivers in the NFL. And one of them, Webster Slaughter, is playing with a bone fracture in his right hand. Here's the handoff to Lorenzo White. Cannot get out of the grasp of Bruce Smith after about a yard or so gain. Bruce Smith, who has still sporting some cracked ribs, still played last week, not effectively by comparison to his previous meetings with the Oilers, where he had registered a career best 6 sacks.
Yeah, well, he only had 3 tackles last week in that game. Then those ribs were bothering him, and he was double teamed as he has been most of this game. And on the last pass, both Don Maggs, the left tackle, and then Bruce Matthews, the center, came out to double team Smith. But marvelous protection for Warren Moon.
And again, the Bills go with only 1 linebacker, 4 linemen, and 6 defensive backs. 2nd down and 10, Houston. Moon drops back to pass with time, throws it out to the left, and connects to Givens inside the 40 at about the 37-yard line. He got about 5 or 6 on the play. And it was Darryl Talley, the right outside linebacker, actually the only linebacker in at the moment that made the hit.
You know what's been surprising thus far for me as I watched this first half of this game is that the Buffalo Bills, they're not blitzing much. The last 6 or 7 pass attempts, just the 4 down linemen. Now, with 6 defensive backs in coverage, the Houston Oilers receivers are still open. I mean, they're still wide open. So the Bills are going to have to decide, hey, if we can't cover these guys, we're going to have to blitz and come after Warren Moon.
Houston leads 7-3 with 12 minutes remaining in the second quarter. And they're going with a wind to their back here in the second period. There's Moon again, back to throw, over the middle, and connecting to Ernest Givens near the 30-yard line, and he is wrestled out of bounds That's enough for a first down at about the 31. Darryl Talley and Nate Odoms combined for the hit on Ernest Givens. And you're right, Pat. Here's Moon, who has a core of wide receivers, plus the addition of Lorenzo White as a receiver. I mean, he's got so many options to go to.
Yeah, but they have been wide open with the 6 defensive back scheme, which is a bit surprising. And just speaking of Ernest Givens and all these wide receivers, much has been said. Hey, you got some small little Smurf type of receivers. But since 1989, they combined, the receivers have only missed 2 games. So they have been tough receivers, even though they're slightly built.
And Givens has missed both of those games because of concussions. Here's Moon throwing it out to the right and connecting again to Givens at about the 25-yard line in front of Clifford Hicks. It's amazing that Givens in his career has had 7 concussions and has only missed those 2 games.
Well, it's a brutal sport. As we both know, we saw Don Beebe take an incredible shot in last week's game from one of the Houston Oilers defensive backs and missed most of last week. He is playing today. How about Warren Moon? 11 of 13, 102 yards. Now, this is a guy who missed 5 games, still was 5th in the NFL in yards passing, even though he missed the 5 games.
Moon has him 2nd and 5 at the Buffalo 25. Hands off on the delay to Lorenzo White. First down inside the 20 to the 15 to the 11-yard line. Lorenzo White up the middle, knocked down by Darryl Talley and Mark Kelso. And another first down for the Houston Oilers. Moon said last week after playing in the game, he said, overall I was pretty happy with the way that I played, although I felt off balance.
Well, he's doing a heck of a job against a defense that isn't exactly chopped liver. This defense has been very good this year for Buffalo, particularly against the run. And yet there, Lorenzo White found a gaping hole over his center's block, Bruce Matthews.
White 46 yards on 9 carries. Second offensive series for the Oilers. The first one was time-consuming of 9 minutes. White again, inside the 10 to about the 6. And Phil Hansen has to come up to make the stop, and you get a feeling in just listening to this crowd, they're trying to help the Buffalo Bills, but the Oilers are negating their efforts.
Well, with the tenor of this game thus far, the Buffalo Bills are going to have to find a different way of defending Warren Moon. Walt Corey is the defensive coordinator for the Bills. Remember, it was a 27-3 ball game last week, so the Bills scored a lot. And the way Houston's defense is playing, the Bills' defense right now needs to come up with a play. The Bills trail 7-3.
Second down and 7 for Houston. Here's the play fake by Moon into the end zone. Touchdown, Houston, to the back of the end zone. The reception by Webster Slaughter, and the Houston Oilers go up 13-3.
As well as Warren Moon is throwing the ball, and he is throwing it terrifically, the offensive line for the Houston Oilers have just been great at giving him time. Warren Moon was back there, it seemed like an eternity, without anybody even close to getting near him. Had plenty of time to find Webster Slaughter, who ran right underneath the goalpost, went down low to catch the ball for Warren Moon's 2nd touchdown pass of the game.
Aldo Greco for point number 14 out of the hold of Greg Montgomery. Placement is down, and the kick is good. And so, with 8:59 to go in the second quarter, it is Houston 14, Buffalo 3.
2 drives for Houston and 2 touchdowns. Kevin Kugler in our Westwood One studios as we listen back to the 1992 wildcard game. So far, Houston is dominating time of possession. They've had the ball for over 16 and a half minutes, while the Bills have only had it for 4 minutes and 27 seconds. But Buffalo's offense gets its second crack when we return. From Westwood One, this is a special encore presentation of the NFL playoffs.
Women. Warren Moon, right now 12 of 14 for 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. Lorenzo White, 50 yards rushing on 10 carries. But the time of possession, I mean, here's 2 drives, exhausting drives by the Oilers. 9:09 on one drive, 7 minutes and 25 seconds on the other drive. Here's the kickoff by Del Greco, and will go out of bounds to the near side, and so they'll bring it out to the 35.
That's where the run and shoot can fool you. I mean, you think it's a quick striking thing, and your defense is going to have to play a lot. We got a skirmish on the field here, but they can control the ball, which the Oilers have done this year. They've played good in short yardage situations today all year, the run and shoot has, and they've scored inside the 20. So all the naysayers about the run and shoot, I think, have been proven wrong over the last couple of years.
James Lofton comes out to the right. Andre Reed to the left. And Thurman Thomas gets the handoff running to the left side. They're stretching out the defense and usher him out of bounds for no gain at the 35. Bubba McDowell, the strong safety, played that play perfectly.
You know, Bubba McDowell, the strong safety for the Oilers, has had a great year. Bubba McDowell has been very good playing close to the line of scrimmage, which he did there to stop Thurman Thomas. He's been very good on pass coverage, and he's a phenomenal special teams player. Seems like every year he blocks at least 1 or 2 punts, which he has this year.
2nd down and 10. Reich hands off to Thomas. Now tries the right side. Little better success, but not a lot more. Maybe 3 yards. Getting back to Bubba McDowell as a freshman at the University of Miami. He was on the scout team. They used to prepare the starting team to prepare each week, and the quarterback then for Miami was Bernie Kosar, was throwing to a guy named Eddie Brown, who was a pretty fair receiver. So let's say Bubba got some pretty good basic training as a freshman in Miami.
And he's played well his entire NFL career, as he did at Miami. He's a very good, strong safety.
Metzelar is in now as a tight end, and Reich goes back to throw out to the right, and that's underthrown, intended for Beebe. So it's 3 and out for the Buffalo Bills.
And a first punt of the ball game coming up in the 7:56 remaining in the second quarter. Houston up 14-3, but we're about to see the first punt of the ball game.
Now Webster Slaughter normally and will again field the punt. He is playing with a fractured bone in his right hand, but apparently they're going to go with him as the punt returner. And Chris Moore, who averages 42 yards per kick, gets this one away into a wind, and they'll return it. Slaughter at the 27, to the 30, outside the 35, and finally roughed out of bounds and really dragged out on a tough play defensively by Mark Maddox on special teams. A 6-yard return of a 34-yard punt. It's 14-3 Houston. Houston has had 2 drives, 2 touchdowns. Their third drive starts at their own 33-yard line with 7:46 to go in the second quarter. Brown again trying to urge on the defense. They're going with a 4-man front, only 1 linebacker, Buffalo. Leonard Harris in the game as a wide receiver in place of Webster Slaughter. And Moon hands off to Lorenzo White. Across the 35 to about the 36-yard line. Nose tackle Jeff Wright with help from Keith Willis knocks down Lorenzo White.
As good as the Houston offense has been this afternoon, as you mentioned, Howard, 2 drives, 2 touchdowns, their defense, the Oiler defense, has done a very good job as well. They've held Thurman Thomas to under 3 yards a carry. He's had 17 yards on 7 carries. And without Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas has to be the featured player in their attack.
Thurman Thomas, 7 carries, 17 yards. Lorenzo White for the Oilers, 11 carries, 53 yards. And 2 touchdown passes thrown by Warren Moon. 2nd down and 8 for Moon and company. Draw play, Lorenzo White running across the 40 to the 43-yard line. Where the ball is marked will determine if it's a first down. It's awfully close. Darryl Talley makes the hit on White. It appears to be enough for a first down for the Houston Oilers.
Another one of those draw plays to Lorenzo White, and he is good with bodies around him. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a gaping hole, but he can move back and forth left to right with good lateral moves. Made a few people miss and picks up the first down for the Oilers.
They move the chains with 6.5 minutes to play in the first half. Buffalo's had the ball twice. They have 1 field goal to show for it. 11 first downs for Houston, 2 for Buffalo. Moon going to throw it. Back to throw with a lot of time over the middle and connecting. Inside the 35-yard line to Ernest Givens. A big play inside Buffalo territory. Clifford Hicks makes the stop, and the Oilers have it going. A 25-yard gain.
You know, one of the things I really like about Houston's pass offense is their receivers are always on the move when they're catching the ball. They're always running. I mean, a lot of offenses, you see the receivers running the hook routes, and as soon as they catch it, they get drilled. But with Houston, they give the receivers a chance to run with the ball after the catch, and their best after the catch is Ernest Givens.
Duncan to the right, Jeffries to the left. Inside receivers are Harris and Givens. Warren Moon with a fresh set of downs, hands to Lorenzo White to near the 30-yard line. He has spilled up front by Phil Hansen in his second year from North Dakota State, 6'5", 275. And the way the Oilers have controlled this clock, one drive of over 9 minutes, one drive of 7.5 minutes. It's amazing. This is only the fifth total possession in this first half. We only have 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, this Oiler offense has been terrific. And the key to the game offensively for the Oilers is the pass protection. Other than the first two passes that Warren Moon threw when Bruce Smith and Phil Hansen were giving him a tough time, he has had all afternoon to throw the ball.
2nd down and 7 for the Oilers. 3 receivers left. One to the right. And only White, the one setback. Back to passes Moon. With time. Flushed out of the pocket and sacked. There's a flag on the play. Jeff Wright made the tackle as he sacks Warren Moon for the first time, but there was a flag on the play. Normally at the spot of the flag it would be some sort of holding, and we'll find out from Jerry Austin.
Holding number 27 of the defense. 5 yards, automatic first down.
Well, that's Carlton Hicks. It was holding, although usually you see it on the line. That was in the defensive backfield. And it'll give the Houston Oilers a first down via the penalty route up to the 26-yard line of Buffalo.
We were just talking about the pass rush and how they had to get to Warren Moon and Jeff Wright, the nose tackles. Had a big year as a pass rusher, which is unusual for nose tackles. That would have been his 7th. But the holding by Clifford Hicks gives the Oilers a first down.
First penalty against Buffalo, and it's a big one. Gives them a first down. Houston, that is. Ernest Gibbons comes in motion to the right side, and the Houston Oilers are playing with complete confidence. Moon back to throw over the middle and into the end zone, and is caught for a touchdown. Wow. What a grab! I believe it was Curtis Duncan who made a spectacular grab over the shoulder. He held onto the ball after taking a tough hit.
It was a spectacular catch by Curtis Duncan, but Mark Kelso, the free safety, should have made that play. Mark Kelso, the free safety, should have had time to get that ball as Curtis Duncan lined up on the right, beat the defensive back Hicks and inside, but the safety has got to help make that play. Kelso was too late getting there, but give Curtis Duncan some credit for catching the ball, taking the hit from Kelso, and scoring the touchdown.
25-yard touchdown pass. 3 touchdowns thrown by Moon to 3 different receivers. This one to Duncan, and the extra point by Del Greco extends the Houston lead to 21-3 with 4:09 to go until halftime.
Houston a perfect 3 for 3 so far. 21 points on their first 3 drives. The Oilers' run-and-shoot offense took a little less time for this one, though. Just 3 minutes and 37 seconds to go the 67 yards for that score. Kevin Kugler back in our Westwood One studios. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is Westwood One, your home for the NFL playoffs. The Oilers dominating the first half, and they're not done yet. You're listening to the NFL playoffs on Westwood One. Kevin Kugler back with you in our studios. Thanks for joining us for another great NFL postseason game. Tonight's rebroadcast of the 1992 Wildcard game between Houston and Buffalo is owned by the NFL on behalf of its member clubs. All rights to this broadcast are reserved, and any rebroadcast, recording, retransmission, or any other use of this broadcast without the express written permission of the National Football League is strictly prohibited. The way it would turn out, the Oilers probably wish this tape was never heard from again. But they weren't feeling that way in the second quarter. Houston up 21-3 over Buffalo. Let's head back to Howard David and Pat Haden in a quiet Rich Stadium.
Right now, Warren Moon would like to have a VCR, an audio tape, and anything else he can get his hands on of this game because he is having a near-perfect afternoon. He is 14 of 16 for 159 yards. He has just tied a Houston Oilers team record. Most touchdown passes in a playoff game, and we still have 4:09 to go in the second quarter.
Yeah, they have been absolutely in sync. Now, twice Al Del Greco here tried to put the ball on the tee to kick it off. Twice it has been blown off. The wind, I guess the Oilers going downwind. And Frank Reich, as he gets this possession, will be going right into the teeth of about a 20-mile-an-hour wind. But you're right, Warren Moon has thrown the ball as well as you can possibly throw it. But the surprising thing to me is with the 6 defensive backs, the Oiler receivers has still been wide open.
And now they'll hold it for Al Del Greco when he kicks it off to either Davis or Lamb. It is Lamb. Brad Lamb on the return across the 20 and knocked down shy of the 30-yard line. So the Buffalo Bills with the wind in their face here in the second quarter, and more importantly, trailing 21-3.
Hey, Howard, how about the way Warren Moon has spread it around? Jeffries has 3 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown. Givens has 5 catches for 67 yards. Duncan has 3 catches for 32 yards and a touchdown. And Slaughter has 3 catches for 19 yards and a touchdown.
Obviously, the Oilers thinking that Buffalo's got to throw the ball. That kind of negates Thurman Thomas. But play fake by Reich, rolling left, setting it up, dumping it off to the tight end, Metzelars. Underneath, short of the 40-yard line. Pete Metzelars with the reception. The Oilers give him about 8 or 9 on the play. Tackle was made by Doug Smith. Smith returning after missing 6 games with a hamstring injury.
Yeah, you can't miss him. He's the size of New Hampshire at 360 pounds.
Here's Thurman Thomas running right into the teeth of the line. He runs into Doug Smith. I guess he didn't get a close enough look at him last time. Gets a real good look at him now. They tell us now that Doug Smith is weighing something like 360.
When he was injured and went out, he was about 320. So he's had he looks good in that fruitcake.
Yeah, he obviously is on that seafood diet. 3rd down on the yard for Buffalo. Thomas gets the call and gets the first down as he crosses the 40-yard line. That's only the 3rd first down for the Buffalo Bills in this first half, and the score is reflective. It's 14-3 Houston with 2:45 to go in the first half.
Well, with those 2:45 and down 21-3, Buffalo, if they're going to have any chance whatsoever, needs to score a touchdown, at least 1 touchdown, before halftime, because they've yet to slow down Warren Moon. The best way to do it is keep your offense on the field.
And Reich back to throw. Slips out of a tackle, but not the second one, and he gets sacked by William Fuller. Well, last year was Fuller's year. He had 15 QB sacks, second best in the league, and made the Pro Bowl. He has not been as effective this year with 7.5 sacks.
Well, how about last week when they played against Frank Reich and Jim Kelly? They had 7 sacks. Now they have 1 today. 51 sacks on the year for the Oiler defense.
A loss of 8. They throw it out to the right to Thurman Thomas, and he gets spilled. A terrific open field play by Steve Jackson. We get to the 2-minute warning. It is 21-3. Houston leads Buffalo.
All right, we'll find out if the Bills can put together a drive before halftime and gain some confidence heading into the locker room. Kevin Kugler back with you in our studios as we listen back to the 1992 Wildcard game. Stay with us at halftime. We'll preview our next edition of great NFL postseason games. It's Super Bowl 42 between the New York Giants and New England Patriots. Former Giants receiver Plaxico Burress takes us through the game-winning drive, including David Tyree's fabled helmet catch and Burress's game-winning touchdown that ended the Pats' dreams of a perfect season. That's coming up at the half, but we still have 2 minutes to play in the second quarter. Houston leads Buffalo 21-3. You're listening to the NFL playoffs on Westwood One.
Along with Pat Haden, I'm Howard David at Rich Stadium in Buffalo with 2 minutes to go in the first half. And the Bills had a tall order coming into this game without their leader Jim Kelly, who's out with a leg injury sustained last week. Plus the additional injuries. We know about Cornelius Bennett and Kirby Jackson. Steve Tasker's back, but still not 100%. And the order is really tall now. They're trailing 21-3.
You know, as big as the Jim Kelly injury has been, right now this story has been how well that Warren Moon has played and the Oiler defense.
And Reich out of a shotgun formation, 3rd and 22, runs into his own lineman, now rolls to his right, throws it on the run, and a grab is made by Andre Reed for a first down inside the 45-yard line of Houston. Marcus Robinson bumps him out, but how about the presence of mind of Frank Reich? A 27-yard gain. Unbelievable play.
That was a terrific play by Reich. He's tried to step up into the pocket, bounced off like a pinball a couple of his players, rolled to his right, and then threw the ball to a running Andre Reed just so he could catch the ball before going out of bounds. A well-timed throw and a perfect throw by Frank Reich.
Andre Reed with 65 receptions during the regular season in his 8th year from Kutztown State. And that sets up the Bills 1st and 10 at the Houston 43 with a 1:51 to go till halftime. Reich back, looking right, rolling to his right, still looking. Dumps it off short for Thurman Thomas, and he gets knocked out of bounds before the ball was anywhere near him, but it was a non-catchable ball. Chris Dishman really gave a shot to Thurman Thomas, and the two exchange handshakes. Good sportsmanship, although Thomas is still shaking a little loose here.
You know, the difference between the two offenses thus far is the Oilers have had receivers running, and I mean very open, in the Bills secondary. That particular time, Frank Reich had no one open as he tried to scramble around and had a good 4 seconds to throw the ball, but still couldn't find a receiver open.
Frank Reich, before today, had thrown all of one playoff pass in his career, and that was in Super Bowl 26 against the Redskins. He goes back to pass. Deep drop, looking for it all. Deep down the right side for James Lofton, and he is underthrown. Lofton trying to come back to the ball as saying that maybe Dishman was guilty of pass interference.
Well, there is a flag down, and they're going to call a holding call, it looks like, on the Oilers.
It is. It's a defensive holding call.
But that ball,
holding number 50 of the defense, 5 yards, automatic first down.
It's against Eddie Robinson, the linebacker.
But you see what the factor the wind had? He threw that ball, a deep ball, and it just basically stopped in the wind and dropped straight down.
Kind of remind you of games you threw those passes?
I didn't have the wind, though. They just stopped anyway.
First down for the Buffalo Bills. They trail 21-3, but you're right. If they get a touchdown here, that will bolster their confidence as they go to the locker room. We have 1:35 to go till halftime. Houston leading Buffalo 21-3, but the Bills have it at the Houston 38-yard line, 2nd down and 10. Shotgun formation. Frank Reich in relief of the injured Jim Kelly. Inside handoff to Thurman Thomas behind some blockers. Inside the 35, still on his feet and finally knocked down at the 33-yard line. And the clock stops with 1:26 to play until halftime at a timeout. It's 21-3 Oilers.
Kevin Kugler back in our studios. The Bills are driving and call their first timeout. We'll be back with the finish of the first half of the 1992 Wildcard game. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs on Westwood One.
Against Reich, but there was a man in the area, James Lofton.
You know, I think the offensive line for the Bills are having a difficult time with Frank Reich in that Jim Kelly is a kind of quarterback that hangs in the pocket, steps up, and the offensive tackles can push their man behind him. Frank Reich is not a kind of quarterback that steps up into the pocket. He tries to escape to the outside, so their offensive tackles are kind of pushing men right into Frank Reich as he scrambles around either end.
This is the 11th play of this drive that started at the Buffalo 29-yard line. But now it's 4th down and 4. And Reich again back to throw. Throws it over the middle, and the pass is incomplete. Metzelars wasn't ready. Or either that or he didn't. The ball was thrown too soon, but a well-defensed play by Darrell Lewis.
Yeah, that was. They were just trying to hit Metzelars, who's a big guy, a big receiver, 6'7", on just kind of a delay route. He went inside, then broke to the out right around the hash mark. But good coverage once again by one of the defensive backs, coached by Pat Thomas, who's done a terrific job for the Houston Oilers in their defensive backfield.
Well, they've now turned it over on downs to Houston at their own 33-yard line. Shane Conlon's in the game as a linebacker, so they go with a conventional defensive alignment of 3 backers.
You know, maybe the thought is that we have to come after Warren Moon a little bit more with some linebackers. 3 down linemen.
21-3, Oilers with a lead, and Moon's going to put it up on 1st down, out to the right, and the pass is thrown right on time to Curtis Duncan. He steps out of bounds at the Houston 43-yard line.
You know, this really is fun to watch when a quarterback like Warren Moon is this on, because he has been on rhythm. The ball is an easy ball to catch. They're perfect spirals, even whether he's throwing with the wind, against the wind. He's thrown every kind of pass. So even though the fans are disappointed that their home team, the Bills, are losing 21-3, if you can at least take some solace in it, you're seeing a terrific performance by Warren Moon.
Yeah, I'm sure that Buffalo's players are doing cartwheels over this performance. 1st and 10 for Houston. Here's Moon back to throw. Eludes a sack. Pump fakes it once, throws it out to the left. It's complete to Jeffries at the 50-yard line. That stops the clock with 1:04 to play until halftime, and the Oilers with a 21-3 lead, looking for some more.
And they have all 3 timeouts of theirs remaining. They have not punted in this first half. Greg Montgomery having a big year for the Oilers. Last week against the Bills in the Astrodome, averaged, 59 yards on 6 punts. He hadn't had a chance to work out yet today.
2 receivers to the right. 1 to the left is Jeffries. Now 3 to the right. Webster Slaughter returns. He has caught a touchdown pass. And Warren Moon with a 1st and 10 at the 50-yard line. Hands off to Lorenzo White with a misdirection inside the 50 and upended at about the 47-yard line.
Well, it'll be 3rd and very, very short. About, a chain link.
But a chain link from a chain link fence or a chain link from the chains?
The sticks, the measuring sticks. Okay.
How much distance do you think there is in one of those links?
About 1.5 inches.
1.5 inches.
How much wood? Never mind. Warren Moon, 16 of 18, 177 yards, 3 touchdowns. It has been absolutely sensational this first half.
Well, it's 3rd down and a link away from a 1st down for the Houston Oilers. By the way, I'm told that Buffalo is now starting to supply the NFL with orders for the videotape of Warren Moon's performance. They're so happy with watching him riddle their secondary. 3rd down and less than a yard, and Lorenzo White looks like he got it, depending, of course, on the dreaded measurement. Phil Hansen stood him straight up, and where did his forward progress take him to?
He didn't gain much. He may have gotten the dreaded length, though.
And Houston spends a 2nd time out.
Okay, so that was the actual...
It's 4th down. He didn't make it. The last carry by Lorenzo White, and the Oilers will go for it on 4th down with 39 seconds to play till halftime, leading 21-3.
Now, it surprises me that they're going for it. It really does. With a 21-3 lead.
Yeah, you're giving the Buffalo team a chance.
Punt the football.
Particularly with the wind to your back. They're going to go for it. And there's contact at the line. Did Warren Moon draw him off?
Yeah, he sure did. He got the nose tackle, Jeff Wright.
Barry Austin with a call.
Encroachment, number 91 of the defense. 5 yards, 1st down.
Well, it's disappointing to the Buffalo fans, obviously, the encroachment on Jeff Wright.
Well, that may have been the call. They may have just gone to the huddle and say, hey, we're going to try to draw him offside. Do not snap the ball, but we'll try to draw him offside. If that were the case, it certainly was well done. And Jeff Wright, the nose tackle, jumps offsides. And with 39 seconds, Warren Moon, with the wind at his back, has another opportunity.
3 receivers to the right. Now 1 comes in motion to the left side. Webster Slaughter. And Warren Moon back to pass. Looking with time, throws it out to the left and connects to Haywood Jeffries inside the 30-yard line. Another 1st down. Shane Conlon is 1 and Henry Jones the other to make the stop, and a timeout is taken by the Houston Oilers. That is their 2nd. The last timeout was an official measurement timeout. The last time the Buffalo Bills played in a wild card game, you'd have to go back to December 27th of 81, and it wasn't here in Buffalo. It was at Shea Stadium in New York, where the Buffalo Bills led the New York Jets 24-0 in the first half and then had to hold on at the end. They wound up winning the game 31-27, and Bill Simpson came up with a game-saving interception at the goal line on a pass thrown by Richard Todd that prevented the Jets from going to the Super Bowl.
Well, right now, with 31 seconds remaining, the Oilers very much in control, 21-3. We've talked about Warren Moon. We've talked about the offensive linemen. The receivers have been open all afternoon. Walt Corey, the defensive coordinator for the Bills, has tried to change up. They started with a 4-man defensive line with 6 defensive backs. They switched to a conventional 34 defense, and now they're back in a 4-man defensive line set.
31 seconds to play till halftime. Houston with a 21-3 lead and looking to add to that total and deliver a knockout punch. They've got the Bills reeling big time. Moon back to throw. Deep sideline route is incomplete to Webster Slaughter. It stops the clock with 26 seconds remaining till halftime. Well, you mentioned Walt Corey. You always see him with a coffee stirrer in his jaw, chewing on it during the game. I wonder how many of those he goes through a game, and is it habit forming?
Well, actually, I know you're kidding around. He actually keeps them as long as they win. Now, they lost last week, so that's a new swizzle stick. But in his office, he's got a whole box of them. These coffee swizzle sticks.
Some people save stamps. Some people save stamps, coins, trading cards.
He doesn't save used ones, though. He only saves the new ones.
I'm delighted to hear that. Leonard Harris is in the game as a wideout for the Houston Oilers. 2nd down and 10 from the Buffalo 29-yard line. Warren Moon back to pass with a lot of time. Steps to the left, throws and delivers it to Haywood Jeffries inside the 30-yard line. At about the 27, that stops the clock with 20 seconds to play until halftime.
Well, with a 20-mile-an-hour wind behind them, they are very much in field goal range now. But as you mentioned a moment ago, they are really trying to deliver the knockout punch.
Warren Moon back to pass. Looking for Jeffries in the corner. He's got him. Into the end zone. Touchdown, Houston.
Oh, my.
And Warren Moon has established a new standard for Houston quarterbacks. 4 touchdown passes in a playoff game, and he's done it all here in the first half.
You know, we've all seen some great performances by quarterbacks, whether it's Joe Montana bringing his team from behind the Super Bowl, or Dan Marino, or lots of great performances. Johnny Unitas for the years, and Terry Bradshaw. But this first half of football, Warren Moon has only missed 3 passes. 19 of 22, 219 yards, 4 touchdowns, has thrown every kind of ball. I mean, it isn't great weather, 20-mile-an-hour wind, so he has done everything he can ask a quarterback to do and more.
Aldo Greco for the extra point, and he delivers it. So with the score, Houston 28 and Buffalo 3, and just 14 seconds to play in the first half, and this is as much of an annihilation of a Buffalo team. Although it is only until the first half, this is as one side of the game I've ever seen against Buffalo.
Yeah.
In my memory.
And you know what? I think the fans sensed it. 9,000 seats were not sold for this game. They just had a feeling that once Jim Kelly was injured last week, they just were not going to have a good outing today. And, you know, Howard, we were talking to one of the Oiler coaches last week. It was Pat Thomas, defensive backfield coach, who said before last week's game, win or lose, he said, we want to make this a physical game. Because if we win, we want to play Buffalo when they're going to be banged up, and they have been. Jim Kelly was lost for the game. Lots of Bill players were injured in last week's game, and it's really showed here. They just don't have the speed right now to stay up with Warren Moon and his receivers.
Well, Kevin Gilbride, the offensive coordinator of the Houston Oilers, has to feel terrific today. Of course, he had cancer surgery earlier this year. He has come back. We saw him earlier today in the lobby of the hotel. He looked terrific, and he's got to be ecstatic right now with his performance of his quarterback, Warren Moon, and the receiving corps. Here's the kickoff on the ground. Hit by Del Greco. It'll go back into the end zone and finally goes through and back out. And with 9 seconds to play until halftime, the Buffalo Bills on the short end of a 28-3 count will have to lick their wounds and come out on fire on the second half. The question is, we know they're able to if Kelly is here. And Kelly may not be the end-all to beat-all, but the fact is that he is their leader.
And unless the Oilers turn the ball over, this game's over. 28-3 lead, with as well as Houston's defense is playing. The only way I think they can lose this game is they throw interceptions or fumble the ball.
The Oilers have had the ball for 21 minutes and 12 seconds out of a possible 30 minutes of playing time in the first half. And Frank Reich under center, hands to Kenneth Davis. He gets about 3 yards, and that'll be the last play of the first half. It has been Houston. 4 possessions in the first half for the Oilers. 4 touchdown passes by Warren Moon. The score at the half, the Oilers 28, the Bills 3.
A perfect first half performance by Warren Moon and the Houston Oilers. But we know the script would flip dramatically in the second half. Kevin Kugler back with you in our Westwood One studios. In the second half, you'll hear how the Bills pulled off the biggest comeback in playoff history. But coming up at halftime, we'll preview maybe the biggest upset in Super Bowl history. Super Bowl 42 between the Giants and Patriots. The NFL is providing free complimentary access to NFL Game Pass for fans. Watch full game replays, previous seasons of Hard Knocks, and more. Sign up now at NFL.com/Game Pass. Through 30 minutes of play in the 1992 Wildcard game, Houston up 28-3 over Buffalo. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs on Westwood One.
And encouraging others to do so too.
Welcome back to tonight's edition of Great NFL Postseason Games. We're at halftime of the 1992 Wildcard game. Houston up 28-3 over Buffalo and dominating in just about every way. The Oilers had 18 first downs in the first half to just 5 for the Bills. And behind Warren Moon, they outgained Buffalo 284-79. Remember that Westwood One on TuneIn is your home for these classic postseason NFL games. Listen every Monday and Thursday to relive some of the greatest postseason contests in NFL history. Just download the TuneIn app to listen for free wherever you are. And coming up this Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll replay Super Bowl 42 between the New York Giants and the heavily favored New England Patriots. And for more on the climactic finish to that one, here's Westwood One's Scott Graham.
On February 3rd, 2008, Tom Brady and company walked into Glendale, Arizona, with football immortality just 60 minutes away. A perfect season. But their 19th game proved to be much more difficult than most experts imagined. Facing a stifling New York defense, the Patriots, who had set numerous offensive records during the season, had scored just 7 points before a Randy Moss touchdown late in the fourth quarter gave them back the lead. Eli Manning and the Giants needed a touchdown to win, with the stage being set by Marv Albert, Boomer Esiason, and Giants wide receiver Plexico Burress.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, 239, when you're a kid, you go through the motions of a situation like this, and these are the moments that you live for. The chance at legendary status right here in Super Bowl 42.
Trotting on the field, during that time, and we were on the TV time, looking up at the clock, and it says 2 minutes and 39 seconds, and I just remember looking to my left and seeing Doug Williams holding the trophy in the hallway with white gloves on. And I'm just looking at that trophy. I'm like, man, this is the closest I've ever been to it in person.
What became a legendary drive built slowly and dramatically and included a fourth down try to keep the game alive on their own side of the field.
The Giants have Brandon Jacobs, Addison Hitchcock in the backfield lined up in the I formation. The fullback Hitchcock in front of Jacobs as Manning ducks in under. And here's the handoff. Jacobs striding off the right side. And again, it's very close. The Patriots say no, he did not make it. And the Giants feel that he did.
And Eli Manning turned around and called timeout immediately to Mike Carey. And what that shows me, Eli Manning is so into this game. He understands the nuances. He knows what's happening. Didn't want to lose any time. But to me, it looks like they got the first down. And they did.
The drama was building. And 2 plays later, New England watched immortality slip away, leading up to one of the greatest moments in NFL history.
Well, 80 seconds remaining, 56 yards to go for the Giants, who are trailing 14-10. Here's the snap. Manning takes, throws to the far side. It is incomplete, almost intercepted by Asante Samuel. The pass in the direction of David Tyree. So that will bring up
yet another third down,
yes.
Another huge play, and Asante Samuel going to look back on that saying, I should have had that.
If you know Asante Samuel, he has some of the best hands of any cornerback that's ever played the position. And I remember looking up at the jumbotron and watching the ball go straight through his hands. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like Asante Samuel doesn't drop interceptions. And I just saying to myself, I'm just, you know what? Somebody's looking out for us tonight.
3rd down and 5. The Giants from their 44-yard line. Manning works out of the shotgun. He takes it. Facing pressure. He's in trouble. He's spun around.
I was actually on the backside of a slot formation. And, I'm getting double covered. And, David Tyree, of course, he runs the wrong route. and I just see Eli, scrambling for his life. And I'm like, oh, man, he's about to get sacked.
He's able to get away. Looks to throw.
I just remember Eli going back and just sailing the ball in the middle of the field. And I'm saying to myself, no, don't throw it.
He does downfield, and elitely catch is made down at the 25. What a play. David Tyree comes up with the ball. What a play by Eli Manning.
It was a tremendous play by Eli Manning as he got out of the grasp of the New England Patriots. I thought Mike Carey was going to blow the whistle, but he didn't. But what a play by Tyree as he goes up over Rodney Harrison and comes down with the ball. It's going to be a first down timeout with the New York Giants.
David Tyree, man, he just went up and made a play that I don't think anybody else could have made.
There was still work to be done by the Giants. 3 plays later, Manning found Steve Smith for a 12-yard gain on 3rd and 11 to once again keep the drive alive and set up the game's unforgettable climax.
With 39 seconds to play here in the fourth, the Giants first and 10 at the 14-yard line.
And where's Plaxico Burress been? Guess what? Down here, jump ball, one-on-one. Ellis Hobbs, Plaxico Burress. Game could be won by the Giants because that's the lineup right now. One-on-one, Plaxico and Ellis Hobbs to your left.
If you go back and look at the pregame, me and Eli were in that exact corner throwing that route maybe 4 or 5 times. And I just been watching film on him for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And for some strange reason, when he got inside the 10-yard line, he would get to the goal line and stop his feet. And I just said to myself at that moment, at line of scrimmage, I say, if he stays true to form, I'm just going to give him one move and just go right by him. And, sure enough, he got to the goal line and stopped his feet. I just ran clean by him.
Burress is to the left, and here is Manning throwing to the end zone. Touchdown, Burress! Plaxico Burress was wide open. The left side of the end zone. Only his second catch of the game. And the Giants are back on top with only 35 seconds remaining.
To live a childhood dream to make a game-winning catch of a game of that magnitude with everything that we have been through during that season, it still brings me goosebumps, and it's just one of those moments in time that you'll just never forget.
And he puts the knee down, and that will do it. And one of the biggest upsets in NFL history, the Giants have beaten the previously unbeaten Patriots and have won Super Bowl 42. So the Giants are the Super Bowl champs.
When I clocked the double zeros, I just cried like a baby. And I couldn't even control it. I didn't even understand why I was crying, because it was just a journey of life. I started playing football in 1987 when I was 7 years old. It was just a childhood dream of not just playing in the NFL, but to live that moment. It seemed like it happened yesterday.
But 12 years later, New York's 17-14 victory is still considered by many as the greatest upset in Super Bowl history. You can hear the full play-by-play Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on many of these same Westwood One stations. We're at halftime of the 1992 Wildcard game, the Oilers leading the Bills 28-3. From Westwood One, this is a special encore presentation of the NFL playoffs.
Women now make up 30.
Welcome back to Great NFL Postseason Games. I'm your host, Kevin Kugler. Tonight we're replaying the greatest comeback in playoff history. And right now we're at halftime with the Bills down 28-3 to the Houston Oilers. Bills quarterback Frank Reich made his first playoff start, filling in for the injured Jim Kelly, and didn't look too good through the first 30 minutes. Just 5 for 11 for 59 yards in the first half. But if someone knew what it took to turn this around, it was the former Maryland backup. On November 10, 1984, when Reich was a senior, the Terps trailed Miami 31-0 at the half. Reich came off the bench and engineered what was at the time the greatest comeback in college football history, defeating the Hurricanes 42-40. So a 25-point halftime deficit? That was nothing. Speaking of college football, don't forget, college football's best set their sights on a lifelong dream. It's the 2020 NFL Draft, live on NFL Network. They've got all 3 days covered with exclusive access and live reports from around the league. Find out where the next wave of NFL stars will land. The 2020 NFL Draft starts April 23rd, live on NFL Network, ESPN, and ABC. When we return, Howard David and Pat Haden have the call of a wild third quarter in this classic from January of 1993. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs on Westwood One.
With Pat Haden, I'm Howard David. We're at Rich Stadium in Buffalo, getting a little freezing rain that is putting a damper on the Bills aside from the scoreboard, which is 28-3 in favor of Houston. And aside from the score, the most glaring stat, and all you have to do is look at Warren Moon's passing numbers. 19 of 22, 218 yards, a club record 4 touchdown passes thrown by Warren Moon, breaking a record that he shared with Dan Pastorini and George Blanda.
Well, you look at some of the other statistics, too. Third down efficiency for the Oilers in the first half. They were 5 of 7. That's obviously 71%. Did not have a punt. They were just terrific. In the rushing department, White 15 carries, 64 yards for over 4 yards an average. Moon, the critical thing, Moon 5 of 5 on third downs. And he threw 2 touchdowns on those third down passes.
Well, he's mixing it up, as you indicated, and that's the way they do it. They have 4 of the top 10 receivers in the NFL, and they're all coming as advertised with some big plays. Hayward Jeffries has had the biggest first half. 2 touchdown receptions. He's caught 7 balls for 91 yards. Duncan has 4 receptions. Slaughter 3. Ernest Givens with 5. Houston will kick off into a very stiff breeze here in the third quarter to either Brad Lamb or Kenneth Davis. And the Buffalo Bills, who seemingly were a disheartened lot as they left the field at halftime. If they can get a touchdown early here in the third quarter, it might give them renewed confidence. But anything short of that, and they have a huge road to hoe. Down 28-3, and it is kicked up short. The ball is covered by Buffalo at about the 35-yard line. Kurt Schultz covered it. It was touched initially, though, by one of the up people, Rod Awalt, a reserve tight end. He could not hold on, and then Schultz saved it. So the Bills will get good field position with a wind to their back to begin the third quarter from their own 36-yard line.
And it is a stiff breeze, a good 20-mile-an-hour breeze. They're going downwind, throwing downwind.
And Reich comes out throwing and connects to Beebe, who takes the shot and holds on and leans forward for a first down across the 45-yard line. Frank Reich was only 5 of 11 in the first half for 59 yards.
Well, yeah, we've talked about this before, Howard, but pro football teams will get generally six series a half. And then with a 28-3 deficit, they can't waste any of them. The Bills can't waste a play.
And they go to Thurman Thomas running to the right. And he slips on the slick surface here at Rich Stadium. Maybe he got a yard on the play. Thurman Thomas had 26 yards rushing in the first half.
Yeah, and without Jim Kelly, they really needed a huge day out of Thurman Thomas. But because the Oilers have not only controlled the score 28-3, they've controlled the clock and time of possession as well. Thurman Thomas just hasn't been on the field enough to be a factor.
And Reich with a deep drop swings it out to the right to Thurman Thomas across the 45. He gets maybe a yard, and that is all. They diagnose it well and shut the play down. Chris Dishman on the far side knocks Thomas out of bounds.
Yeah, these defensive backs for the Oilers. We talked about Bubba McDowell, the strong safety, how well he has played this year. Chris Dishman is a defensive back that'll take some chances. He'll get burned from time to time, but he'll make a lot of plays, as he did right there on Thurman Thomas in the right flat.
Third down and 9 for Buffalo from their own 48-yard line. Out of a shotgun formation. Reich has it. Back to pass. Throws it out to the right, and the pass is caught and then intercepted. It's intercepted on the far sideline, and taking it all the way down is Bubba McDowell for a touchdown. Bubba McDowell for a touchdown, and that may be the final nail.
It is.
In the Buffalo coffin, it was tipped off the hand of Keith McKellar. And Bubba McDowell goes the distance for a score. And the Houston Oilers extend their lead to 34-3. Unofficially, a 55-yard interception for a touchdown.
That wasn't a bad throw by Frank Reich. It was tipped by Keith McKellar, although I think Frank Reich was throwing the ball outside to Don Beebe, a wide receiver. He had stopped near the flat, and the ball was supposed to be coming to him. It was tipped by McKellar, who was in front of Beebe, and it goes right into the hands of Bubba McDowell, the strong safety, the man we were just talking about. Has just had a tremendous year all the way around. Defense, special teams.
And the extra point by Del Greco, and the rout continues, only now it is worse. It's 35-3. Houston leads Buffalo with 13:19 to play in the third.
Remember that score, 35-3. Kevin Kugler back here in our Westwood One studios. Howard and Pat certainly thought the game was over after that pick six, and so did the Bills faithful. Many people began to head for the exits when Bubba McDowell returned that interception for a touchdown. They would come to regret that decision. The Bills' improbable playoff comeback will begin when we return. From Westwood One, this is a special encore presentation of the NFL playoffs.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me. Whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans. When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. A warm place on a cold day. I want to be a bike that races around the country. I want to be a bench on a forest trail. When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You accidentally cut your daughter's bangs unevenly. Do you A, line things up a centimeter from her hairline?
Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
No. Sweatbands are so hot right now. Everyone's wearing them. Like that basketball player and that other basketball player.
B, get spiritual.
Mom, where did all the mirrors go?
A reflection could never capture our true selves.
Huh?
Beauty is within.
C, look on the bright side.
Less time blow drying, more time texting.
Or D, show empathy.
Mom, you really don't have
Ta-da! Twinsies!
I kinda love it. As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me. Whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
I'm more resourceful than I thought.
My suit can still make an impression.
My video games are still game changers.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill,
it helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Now my stuff gets a second chance.
And will give someone in my community
a second chance too.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. That's goodwill.org. This message brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
While some of the fans have departed Rich Stadium, figuring this one is over at 35-3, the lion's share of the crowd remains, hoping for a miracle, perhaps. And that's all I think they can do right now is hope, Pat.
No, this game is over with 13-19 remaining in the third quarter. Just been one remarkable display of Oiler defense and Warren Moon and the offensive line. I mean, that offensive line. And the Bills' defense tried to do a couple of different things. They tried laying off and pass coverage. They tried blitzing. Neither one of them have seemed to work.
Here's the kickoff. It's hit an up man. They scramble for it at the 50-yard line. Houston might have recovered. Houston might have recovered the loose ball.
Well, it was not an intentional onside kick.
No, it was not an onside kick. He just tried to drill it low and hard into a wind, and there's an injured Oiler on the play. Apparently, Mark Maddox of Buffalo recovered the ball, but there is an injured Oiler on the play.
It was a low kick trying to squib it into the wind. It hit the man right in the middle of the up back for the Bills. Came off of him.
Let's go back to that last interception for a touchdown. Keith McKellar really got in the way. I don't think that pass was intended for him. It was intended for Beebe, and then McKellar got in the way. Earlier today, I think you and I both saw the same article in the Buffalo paper. McKellar was very unhappy with the way things had gone for him this year.
Well, he was late into camp. McKellar was a big part of the offense last year when he caught 42 passes. Then he was late into camp on a contract thing, and then he got his knee hurt, injured, and really has been playing second team behind Pete Betzelaars now.
You're listening to the NFL playoffs from CBS Radio Sports with Pat Haden. I'm Howard David. The Houston Oilers have clearly made a statement out here today that they can compete in the NFL playoffs, even though they have to come out as a wild card. They'll go into Pittsburgh next week, and I'm sure the Steelers are interested observers today.
Well, the Steelers can start preparing right now for Houston because Houston is going to win this football game, and they're going to have to figure out a way to get some receivers open and run the ball on a very good Houston defense.
Reich throwing it, and it's nearly picked off, but a sliding grab made by Metzelaars inside the 30-yard line. That ball was nearly picked off by Eddie Robinson, the linebacker, and the ball just sailed through his hands. An excellent concentration by Metzelaars, and he is finally brought down at the 26-yard line. One of the few times the Buffalo fans have had something to cheer about.
Well, number 50, Eddie Robinson, just kind of jumped up. The ball is slick. It's wet. It's windy. I mean, the receivers for the Oilers have certainly caught the ball, but the linebacker for the Oilers, Eddie Robinson, couldn't hang on.
Reich over the middle and connects to Andre Reed at the 20-yard line. James Lofton has been completely invisible today for the Buffalo Bills, and you got to credit the Houston defense.
Yeah, James Lofton comes into the game with 751 career receptions, almost 14,000 yards. They threw one ball to him. It was not complete. They only threw one ball his way in the first half.
He goes out wide to the right. Reed and Beebe to the left side. 2nd down and 4 for Buffalo. Reich back to throw. Flushed out of the pocket and sacked outside the 30-yard line. They just came right after him, and knocking him down was William Fuller. That's the second sack of the game for William Fuller in his second year from North Carolina.
Well, 7 sacks last week the Oilers had against Bill quarterbacks. This is a defense we've talked much about. They've only allowed 6 rushing touchdowns all year long.
It was interesting. Before last week, the Bills were tied for 2nd in the NFL with fewest sacks allowed until the 7, as you mentioned last week. There's dominance of the line. 3 today. 3rd down and 15 for Buffalo. Reich back to throw. Looking over the middle, and the pass is delivered to Andre Reed, who makes a catch despite a bone-jarring tackle by Marcus Robertson. It looks to be enough for a first down, and Andre Reed finally gets to his feet. That's a terrific play by Andre Reed.
Andre Reed has made a career out of making tough catches over the middle. A lot of guys make a career out of catching the out routes and the fades and the corner routes, but Andre Reed, his area is from hash mark to hash mark, work in the middle of the, and regardless of whether the score's 35-3 or not, he's still going to run over the middle and catch the ball.
That's his 4th reception of the afternoon. Reich back, throwing it into the end zone, and it is incomplete. Broken up at the last minute by Steve Jackson. It was intended for Andre Reed.
That was a heck of a play by Steve Jackson, because Andre Reed lined up in the left the slot area, just kind of ran a little down and out and then up. Had Jackson beaten early, the ball was underthrown. It had not been underthrown, it would have been a touchdown to Andre Reed, but because it was underthrown, Steve Jackson had a chance to knock it away.
So Buffalo 2nd down and 10 from the 15-yard line of Houston. Inside handoff to Kenneth Davis to the 10, to the 7, and knocked down there. They try to cross him up a little bit. He's knocked down by Marcus Robertson. This has not been a very productive year in terms of touchdown receptions for Andre Reed. He's only had 3. As a matter of fact, it's his lowest total of touchdown receptions in any one season in his career.
Well, you were talking about NFL players being disgruntled this year, a number of them around the league. He has also been quite vocal in his concern about not getting the ball enough.
3rd down and 2 for Buffalo at the 7-yard line of the Houston Oilers. The Oilers lead in convincing fashion, 35-3 with 10:15 to go in the 3rd quarter. Reich sustaining the shotgun under center. Quick drop. Throws it over the middle, and the pass is nearly intercepted by Steve Jackson. And Andre Reed is upset, perhaps about where the ball was thrown, or maybe he was interfered with, but he's not a happy man right now, and it'll be 4th down and 2 for Buffalo at the Houston 7-yard line.
Well, Steve Jackson has just played, I think, terrific football the last 2 weeks. It isn't just today. The play previous to this, he knocks it away from Andre Reed for a touchdown. Second play in a row, he knocks it away for Andre Reed from that prevented a touchdown. But this has been the 2nd week he's been matched up man for man against Reed and played pretty well.
4th and 2 for Frank Reich and the Bills. They go inside to Kenneth Davis, has a 1st down inside the 5 to about the 2-yard line. The Buffalo Bills, whose chances you could probably count on the fingers of one hand, are kept alive, at least for the moment, with 9:50 to go in the 3rd quarter. Carwell Garner comes in the game, primarily used as a blocking back, along with Mitch Farrat, and Keith McKellar returns, but Thurman Thomas standing on the sidelines. He appears to be all right.
Well, Kenneth Davis has been a very good short yardage runner over the years for them as well, and as you mentioned, Thurman Thomas injured a hip last week.
It's the 10th play of the drive. Davis has 6 touchdown runs. Davis and Gardner behind Reich. It is Davis behind Gardner, running to the left to the corner. Touchdown, Buffalo.
Interesting formation by the Bills, who right before the snap shifted 2 tight ends out wide right, then ran a sweep to the left. Kenneth Davis runs to the corner of the end zone, gets a lead block from Jim Richer, his left guard, and scores.
Well, that makes it a 35-9 Houston lead. Steve Christie with his first extra point try of the afternoon. Freezing rain, thankfully, has stopped. There's the placement down, and the kick is perfect. And so with 8:52 to go in the 3rd quarter, the Houston Oilers still in complete control. They lead Buffalo 35-10.
The Oilers still in control for the moment, but the shift in momentum had begun, and Buffalo had a trick up their sleeve to keep it that way. Kevin Kugler back in our Westwood One studios. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is Westwood One, your home for the NFL playoffs. All right, we'll be back with more of the pivotal 3rd quarter from the 1992 Wildcard game in a moment. You're listening to the NFL playoffs on Westwood One.
Here at Rich Stadium in Buffalo, where it has been overcast all afternoon, high winds, temperature hovering about 40 degrees. We had a freezing rain a moment ago. That has stopped. And Steve Christie with an onside kick try. They scramble for it near midfield. The Bills are saying they've got it. And they do. Steve Christie, the kicker, recovered the loose ball.
Yeah, it was an interesting onside kick attempt, because Christie the whole time was just trying to kind of pooch it and catch it himself. It originally, I don't think, went 10 yards, but it was touched by an Oiler. And once the Oiler touched it, it was number 93 of the Oilers, couldn't hang on to it. And that is Rick Graff, an outside linebacker. Christie got the rebound, and now the Bills are back in business once again with a 20-mile-an-hour wind behind their backs. And the Houston offense still has not touched the ball the second half.
Christie must have played soccer, not because he's a soccer-style kicker, but the way he dragged that ball off the tee. This is a guy that's played soccer with terrific ball control. And they'll start it at their own 48. Reich out to the left, and the ball is delivered to Don Beebe inside the 45 of Houston. The reason why Houston has not had the ball in the second half is because a interception returned by Bubba McDowell on Buffalo's first possession. That gave them the 35-3 lead. Then Buffalo has come back and made it 35-10. The Bills now looking for another quick strike to make this one a little interesting with 8:21 to go in the third quarter. Reich back to throw out to the left, and the ball is thrown low and is incomplete. Beebe short hopped it, and it'll bring up second down. Or a correction, it'll bring up third down. So Doug Smith comes out of the game at defensive line, and William Fuller returns. So does Lamar Lathan. Lamar Lathan has been out with a fractured tibia. He was activated last week, and he is suited up and playing today, a linebacker. Big Doug Smith rumbles back onto the field. Rumbling might be the most apt description you could say. Here's third down of the yard now for Buffalo. McKellar in motion. Flags fly, and Gardner gets a first down off right tackle. We'll wait and find out what the flag is all about. He gets it inside the 40-yard line.
I think it was on big old Doug Smith. I think he was moving and in the neutral zone a little early, and when he gets in there, he's hard to miss. All 360 pounds of him.
It's hard for him not to move. Everything is moving on Doug Smith.
Offside, number 99, 5 yards, first down.
He is offside, off front, off back.
Yeah, it's hard for him not to be offside.
So Buffalo with a fresh set of downs. First and 10 at the Houston. He is offside, off front, off back.
Yeah, it's hard for him.
Offside, off front, off back.
Yeah, it's hard for him not to be offside.
So Buffalo with a fresh set of downs. First and 10 at the Houston 38-yard line. We have 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. And while Houston leads 35-10, a Buffalo touchdown here, and they get the crowd back into this ball game.
We talked about Thurman Thomas being somewhat injured. He's still not in the ball game, as Kenneth Davis has been his replacement. So maybe that hip that he hurt last week is bothering him.
Frank Reich under center, goes back to pass. Throws it out to the left. He's got Beebe wide open. Beebe for a touchdown.
Did Beebe ever put a move on Jerry Gray for a 38-yard touchdown? It was an out and up. Jerry Gray is the right cornerback for the Oilers. Beebe went down, faked the out cut, went back up top. You know, and Jerry Gray has a gripe. Beebe stepped out of bounds. That should not have been a touchdown. And Jerry Gray was complaining to the officials. Beebe was pushed out, came back in, which he cannot do in professional football. That should not have been a touchdown.
Well, they'll leave it stand. There were no flags. And Christie's extra point. And all of a sudden, instead of 35-3, it is now 35-17. With just under 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. Houston in control, but shaky control.
So a bit of good fortune for the Bills. First, Houston muffs the onside kick, allowing Steve Christie to recover it. Then a missed call on Don Beebe allows the Bills to pull within 18 points. By the way, one interesting nugget, especially to those who were rooting for the Oilers, this was the first season since 1985 that did not include instant replay. That could have reversed that Beebe score. Anyway, the Oilers' offense had been a perfect 4 for 4 in the first half, and they'll finally get their first chance of the second half when we return. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs on Westwood One.
With Pat Haden, I'm Howard David. Rich Stadium in Buffalo, a short chip shot kickoff by Christie, and two Oilers run into each other. I believe they have held onto the ball, but that was near disaster for the Houston Oilers. They lead 35-17. They give it up now, and Buffalo scores. You really got a heck of a scenario.
I believe it was Tony Brown who did the right thing for the Oilers and called the fair catch. Give the Bills special teams some credit. The kickoff before, they went onside. This time they kicked it a very high and short kick, and Terry Brown called for the fair catch, which you're allowed to do, waved his arm, caught it, ran into one of his other men, I believe.
Leonard Harris. And a ball almost came loose. If it comes loose and Buffalo recovers. I know if ifs and ands were pots and pans, the world would be a kitchen, but that isn't the story here. The story is that if the ball comes loose and Buffalo gets it deep in Houston territory, they're down 35-17, but still in the game.
I'll tell you what another story is, though. The Bills got lucky because they got away with a call. Their receiver, Don Beebe, was out of bounds. We had a chance to look at it during the commercial on our monitor in our booth. He stepped out of bounds. The officials did not see it. They gave the Bills the touchdown to make it 35-17, but there was absolutely no doubt that Don Beebe was out.
Well, the Houston Oilers have played ball control on their touchdown drives in spite of the fact they've moved it through the air. But this will be the first snap for the Houston Oilers offensively here in the third quarter, and they lead 35-17.
And the crowd is very much back in it.
Yep. Over 75,000 at Rich Stadium. A decided home field advantage for the Buffalo Bills. Lorenzo White, who's had a solid game thus far, all in the first half, obviously. Behind Warren Moon, who's had a great first half. And Moon's going to put it up. Swings it short to Webster Slaughter, shy of the 35. And the Buffalo Bills defense has been rejuvenated. Marcus Patton makes the hit on the play, but now they go into a conventional alignment, Buffalo that is, with 4 linebackers and 3 down linemen.
They feel they're going to get some more quickness in their pass rush with the 4 linebackers. Or if they don't, they feel because Warren Moon has been hitting a lot of the short zones that they're going to hit the receivers as soon as they catch the ball. Don't let them run with it.
I'll bet you Jack Pardee wanted to give Moon a breather and let Cody Carlson come and play, and now he can't do
not
that.
Now.
He still has an 18-point lead, but still 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. And the momentum is shifted. White gets hit at the line of scrimmage for no gain. Phil Hansen and Jeff Wright knock him down.
Now, here's where you have a veteran quarterback like Warren Moon, and I know what's going through his mind is with an 18-point lead, and even though the momentum has switched to the Buffalo Bills, you still don't have to get it all back. Even if you have to punt the ball after this 3rd and 7, they still have to score 3 touchdowns 3 times to beat you. So that's what you need to be thinking about. Don't throw the interception. He hasn't been close to throwing an interception yet this half.
Moon is 5 for 5 on 3rd down plays. 3rd down and 7, Houston. Gibbons in motion. The poise of Moon being tested now. Lines up, throws it deep down the right side and is broken up. Intended for Curtis Duncan. A terrific play by Mark Kelso, the free safety.
Kevin Kugler back with you in our studios. So a big 3 and out forced by the Bills defense. And suddenly the Rich Stadium crowd is going nuts. Remember those fans that left the stadium? Well, some of them began to climb the fences to try to get back in since their ticket didn't allow re-entry. Houston punted for the first time in the game, and it wasn't a good one. After taking a Buffalo bounce, Greg Montgomery's kick traveled only 25 yards. So the Bills have excellent field position when we come back, starting at their own 41-yard line, and with all the momentum in this wild card classic from January of 1993. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs on Westwood One.
Sometimes.
Welcome back to Great Games in NFL postseason history on Westwood One from the Progressive Insurance Studios. I'm Kevin Kugler. Quoting home insurance just got easier with Progressive's Home Quote Explorer. Quote and buy, all online at Progressive.com. Tonight it's the 1992 wildcard game between the Oilers and the Bills. Let's get you back to Howard David and Pat Haden for the final 6 minutes of the third quarter. Houston up 35-17, but trying to prevent a third straight Bills touchdown. Buffalo begins the possession with the ball at their own 41-yard line.
This is where the Houston Oiler defense must make something happen.
And it's hard to believe that you could say that with a 35-17 game, but you're right. Reich airs it out down the right side, and a catch on his knees is made by James Lofton. That's the first catch of the day for the 36-year-old, 15-year pro from Stanford.
Well, you know, the Bills are doing something smart, too. They're trying to get as much production as they can in this quarter, because they are throwing downwind, 20-mile-an-hour wind at the back, no huddle, because they know in that fourth quarter they're going to have to throw against it.
Hand off to Kenneth Davis running left, and he is knocked down immediately. That's a nice play by Sean Jones. In his 9th year from Northeastern, he spent 4 years with the Raiders before coming to the Houston Oilers. And he has been on a roll about the last half a dozen games. He's had 5 sacks.
Well, you think about Sean Jones and Ray Childress and Lee Williams and William Fuller. They have some pretty good defensive linemen. Jeff Alm was injured and unable to play during the playoffs, but they got some nice depth in the defensive line.
Reich out of a shotgun, 2nd down and 9. Steps up in the pocket, airs it out deep down the right side, but there's a flag on the play. There was a catch by Beebe, a long catch down at the 2, but a flag waved it off before the play unfolded.
Yeah, and it'll be against the Bills.
Number 79 raised up, false start, 5 yards, still 2nd down.
Well, he must mean 75.
Yeah, there is no number 79 for Buffalo that I'm aware of, unless they brought in a ringer. You think they?
No. I think he was talking about Howard Ballard, the right tackle, number 75.
This game has been relatively free of penalty. It's only the 3rd penalty against Buffalo for 15 yards. So it will be 2nd down and 14 now for Frank Reich in relief of the injured Jim Kelly. Question as to whether or not Kelly could play beyond this week or not may be a moot point, because the Houston Oilers lead 35-17. They had a 35-3 lead. And even Jack Pardee with an 18-point cushion has to feel a little bit nervous right now. Should Buffalo get another score here before this 3rd quarter is ended, it then becomes an 11-point game. In the last 14 games in the AFC playoff history, the home team has won all 14 times. And right now the home team is behind 35-17.
And as we said, they're trying to squeeze as much out of this quarter as they can when they're going downwind.
Reich out of a shotgun, back to pass. Swings it out of the backfield to Kenneth Davis. The screen pass inside the 40. He's to the 35, to the 30, and finally knocked down. But his own forward momentum took him down. Otherwise, he had some more room to run, and Ray Childress came back to make the hit.
I want to tell you, Howard Ballard got away with a hold on William Fuller as he was rushing the passer. A good screen pass by the Bills. They're one of the best. The Minnesota Vikings, a good screen team, although they didn't use many yesterday in their loss to the Redskins. But that was a well set up screen on the right side to Kenneth Davis.
That's a 19-yard gain for Buffalo. 1st and 10 at the 26, and right back to throw. Lobs it deep down the left, wide open. Andre Reed, touchdown Buffalo. Touchdown Buffalo with 4:21 to go in the 3rd quarter.
There are some Houston Oilers coaches in the next booth to us, Howard, who are absolutely grimacing right now. He was just too open on that play. And what they're doing to these very aggressive Oiler defensive backs, they're putting double moves on them. Beat Jerry Gray for the 2nd time today for touchdowns on a double move. You fake the out, you go up, and you're wide open.
Steve Christie for the extra point. Perfect. 4:21 to go in the 3rd quarter. And the Buffalo Bills have scored 3 unanswered touchdowns here in the 3rd. This is after going down by their greatest deficit, 35-3. A minute and 41 seconds into the 3rd quarter. Bubba McDowell intercepted a tip ball and went 58 yards per touchdown. That made it 35-3. And you probably could have stuck a fork in Buffalo because they would be done. And they've come back with 3 straight scores.
Yeah, give them some credit. They really have. Frank Reich has looked like a different quarterback. He's gotten excellent protection. It's been the double cut moves. They've beaten Jerry Gray twice now on touchdowns. The same move. The receiver goes down, fakes the out move, the pump fake. Then he goes over the top for the touchdown. And as I've pointed out, as I said this game was over, well, it may not be over yet, but I still like the visitors leading by 11 points because it was going to take 2 touchdowns. And remember, they still have Warren Moon. But I think what's key for the Oilers right now is not as much Warren Moon as trying to get something going with Lorenzo White. Lorenzo White, you'd like to get the crowd settled down a little bit. You know they're going to be very loud the next time Warren Moon jogs onto the field. It's going to be difficult to call audibles. But maybe if you can squeeze out a first down or 2 on the ground with Lorenzo White, you can quiet him down.
Frank Reich, 10 of 14 for 171 yards. 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. And now the Houston Oilers. Watch Steve Christie drive it upfield. Fielded by Leonard. No, he lets it go through to the end zone. And he'll down it in the end zone. They'll bring it out to the 20-yard line, but there is no question that the Houston Oilers are shaken right now, even though they have an 11-point lead.
Remember how good Buffalo has been at home over the last number of years. Yes, they lost 2 games here this year, but the 3 previous years, they had not lost a home game.
So now the Houston Oilers, who have seen Warren Moon deliver nearly a perfect half. He misfired on only 3 passes out of 22 that he threw in the first half.
He's hardly played this half.
Only had the ball for 2 possessions. And one was a defensive possession. This is only their second offensive possession. 4 linebackers for Buffalo Bills. 4:13 to go in the third quarter. Warren Moon back to pass. Flags go down as he makes the connection to Webster Slaughter, who's bumped out of bounds at the 27-yard line.
Well, Lorenzo White wasn't set in the backfield. That's going to be against the Oilers. Lorenzo White had moved up to hear the audible or hear the snap count and got caught moving.
Illegal motion. 2 men moving at the same time. 5 yards. Still first down.
As you well know, Pat, having played this game, as important as talent is confidence. And right now, this Buffalo team, their offense has given the defense confidence.
You're absolutely right. But there's no reason why the Oiler offense shouldn't feel confident the way they played the first half. But you're absolutely right. The adrenaline is flowing. They're pumped. They're moving quickly on defense.
And the players on the sidelines for Buffalo urging the crowd. 75,000 plus at Rich Stadium. Warren Moon back to throw on 1st and 15. Throws it deep down the middle. It is tipped and intercepted. Henry Jones to the 25. And down he goes at the 23-yard line. Doug Dawson makes the tackle on the play. And the Buffalo Bills have it first down inside the Houston 25-yard line. A 16-yard return by Henry Jones, who tied with Audrey McMillan for most interceptions in the NFL this year with 8.
Yeah, I was just going to mention it. He has returned 2 of those 9 interceptions for touchdowns. Now, this wasn't the receiver's fault. It was over the head of Webster Slaughter. Just got a hand on it. And Henry Jones playing a very good, strong safety because he has played very good close to the line of scrimmage in the run defense throughout the year and been just terrific in pass defense, intercepting his 9th pass.
Reed and Lofton to the right. BB to the left. Kenneth Davis stays in as a running back. He gets the call running right to about the 21, maybe to the 20-yard line. Now with 3.5 to go in the third quarter, the Buffalo Bills don't have to hurry right now. They get a touchdown here. They got a whole quarter to play. Even if they get a field goal, frankly.
Yeah, precisely. And flip it over. For the Houston Oilers defense, what they need to do is 2 things. One, make sure they don't score the touchdown, force the field goal attempt. But even more importantly, perhaps try to force the turnover, force a fumble. Get somebody in Reich's face. In the first half, they put a lot of pressure on him. They have not this half.
2nd and 7. Delay handoff to Kenneth Davis running right. Slips out of 1 tackle, but not the second. He gets a couple. To about the 18-yard line. He is pulled down by Al Smith and Lamar Lathan.
Boy, I tell you, Kenneth Davis is running awfully hard. And now you come up to a situation which is now 3rd and 5. Again, the Houston Oilers leading 35-24, 2:30 remaining in the third quarter. I mean, this is a down that on 3rd and 5 that over the last couple of years, Andre Reed has owned.
Well, Reed is lined up on the right. Lofton and Beebe to the left. And Frank Reich calling the signals. Takes the snap, drops back to pass with time. Scrambles to the right, looking to run, and then throws it to the ground to almost avoid the sack. He had Kenneth Davis in the neighborhood. And we'll see if Marv Levy sends on the field goal team.
Has to.
Well, I haven't seen any movement yet by the field goal unit. The offensive unit is still out on the field.
Well, I don't know. 4th and, let's see, it's a 11-point game.
To kick a field goal, they're still down by 2 scores.
Yeah, so you're right. They need to go for it here, which they will. Now, if that was the thought process, though, maybe you take 2 runs on 3rd and 5. Now you're in a situation at 4th and 5 where you pretty much have to throw it.
And you've got to operate out of a shotgun. Frank Reich, 4th down and 5 of the 18. They must get to the 13-yard line for a first down. The play clock.
Yeah, he'll call timeout.
Is down to 2, and he has to spend the timeout. So a timeout is taken by the Buffalo Bills, who have staged some comeback here in the third quarter. The thing that's hard for me to be fully cognizant, be appreciative of, and maybe I'm overly appreciative of what Houston has done. When they were down by their biggest deficit, 35-3, they could have easily have said, that's it, game's over. Mm-hmm. They've scored 3 unanswered touchdowns. And it's usually a defensive touchdown scores against you is what really hurts you the most, particularly when you're down by 32 points. And now it's only an 11-point game.
And what got it all started, it was the onside kick by Steve Christie. The onside kick, which he recovered. They converted that into a touchdown. They came back again after holding Warren Moon, forcing a punt, and scored again on another a pass. That one to Andre Reed.
This third quarter, Buffalo's had the ball for 10 minutes and 14 seconds out of a possible 12 minutes and 55 seconds. First half, it was all Houston. They had the ball for 21 minutes plus, and Buffalo had it for about 8 minutes and 48 seconds. What a turnabout, and it's all happened in one quarter. So now Buffalo with a very important play. 4th and 5 at the Houston 18. Right back to pass over the middle, and it's caught in the end zone by Andre Reed.
What a throw and a catch by Andre Reed.
He ran a post pattern, and Reich hit him with a sliding grab into the end zone. Well, and with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter, Pat, it is a 35-30 Houston lead.
Incredible, absolutely incredible comeback after I, in particular, had written the Buffalo Bills off. But Andre Reed, we said he owned 3rd down. We'll give him 4th down, too, because he put a beautiful move on over the middle to get open and catch the touchdown.
Second touchdown reception by Reed in the last 2 series. Christie's extra point is good. And with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter, the score is Houston 35, Buffalo 31. We have received a report that Thurman Thomas has a bruised hip. He may return, in the way Buffalo's going right now, I'm not sure it matters.
Yeah, no, Kenneth Davis has played very well, and it's not just a bruised hip. He must have re-bruised it because it was a hip that he injured last week against Houston. But right now, what I think Warren Moon would love to do if he could is get some production out of his running game. 2 minutes left in this third quarter where he still is faced with a very stiff breeze. They don't want to have to punt again into this win. They'd like to use those 2 minutes, get a first down, and then have the fourth quarter with this 20-25 mile an hour wind at his back.
Buffalo with a 5-0 mark in playoff games here at Rich Stadium. Look to have that number at 5-1 about 10 minutes ago of playing time. And the Buffalo Bills, a battered, bruised lot without Jim Kelly, without Cornelius Bennett, without Kirby Jackson. And yet they're hanging in there.
I can't say enough about the offensive line of the Buffalo Bills. They have done a magnificent job this second half of giving Frank Reich some time to find his receivers.
Darrell Lewis and Gary Brown are back. And a diving grab is made at the 15-yard line coming forward by Darrell Lewis, and Houston will put it in play 1st and 10 just outside their 20-yard line with 1:52 to go in the third quarter.
That was a dangerous catch by Darrell Lewis. I don't know if you completely appreciated that, but that ball was kicked very high and short, and he had to make a diving catch of the kickoff return.
Andre Reed has done something that no other opposing receiver has done against Houston this year. Caught for over 100 yards in a game. Only Houston and New Orleans were the only teams not to permit a 100-yard receiver, and Andre Reed with 6 catches for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. Frank Reich in the third quarter, 11 of 16 for 189, had 3 scores. And now Warren Moon, back to pass, dumps off the screen of Lorenzo White, and he can't hold on because of a terrific play by Darryl Talley, who was right up in Warren Moon's face.
Yeah, you're right. Darryl Talley first came off the corner on the blitz and ran through Lorenzo White, who was a screen man. Now, Lorenzo White was trying to bump him and then release for the pass, but he got so tied up with the on-rushing Darryl Talley that he couldn't get settled and catch a screen pass, which was well set up on the left side. So good play by Darryl Talley.
2nd down and 10 for Houston from their own 22-yard line. The 12th man is alive in Buffalo. That's the crowd. Warren Moon back to pass. Steps up, throws it over the middle, and a diving grab across the 35-yard line by Webster Slaughter quiets the crowd for the moment. A 1st down for Houston.
Yeah, that is a big throw and a big catch by a veteran quarterback, Warren Moon. Again, we've talked about the wind, the elements. It is windy here. It is about a 20-mile-an-hour wind. There's 1:26 remaining in the third quarter where Warren Moon is thrown against that wind. He would love to get through this last minute 16 and get the wind at his back.
Bills trail 35-31. They were down 35-3. Warren Moon back to pass. Loses the football. It is loose on the ground, and the Oilers have covered. It was knocked loose. I think it was either Talley or it's Talley. Darryl Talley tackled Moon and dislodged the ball at the same time.
You know, Darryl Talley has been an emotional leader of this team for a while. I mean, everybody talks about Cornelius Bennett and Bruce Smith, but Talley is an emotional guy who refused to stay blocked. 2 guys tried to take a shot at Talley. He refused to be blocked, knocks the ball out of the hands of Warren Moon. Luckily for Oilers, it was Mike Munchak who made the recovery. But now Moon faces 2nd and 20.
Munchak playing his 145th game in the National Football League. 2nd down and 20 for the Oilers. Warren Moon drops back to throw. Ball is knocked down at the line of scrimmage. Carlton Bailey knocked it down at the line of scrimmage. It's 3rd and 20 for the Oilers. And the crowd in a frenzy at Rich Stadium in Buffalo.
Perfect timing on the leap by Carlton Bailey. Now, Carlton Bailey is an inside linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. A short 3-step drop, or actually 5-step drop by Warren Moon, trying to dump it over the middle, but Carlton Bailey jumped perfectly. Mike Munchak, the guard, kind of lifted him up, and he swatted it down with his right hand.
The Bills, put together with baling wire and glue, may be riding an emotional wave right now. Warren Moon, 3rd and 20. Drops back to pass. Looking over the middle. Deep down the middle, and Webster Slaughter couldn't hold on. It went through his hands. It's incomplete. So that'll bring up 4th down to the punting unit to come on with 19 seconds to play in the third quarter.
And again, once again, into that wind. But that was a ball that Webster Slaughter should have caught. Went through his hands. Would have been caught for a 1st down on 3rd and 20. But it went through his hands and nearly was intercepted.
Henry Jones was in the area. Clifford Hicks back to await the punt. A short kick by Montgomery into that wind. It takes a Buffalo bouncing down by the Oilers at the 48-yard line of Buffalo with 11 seconds to play in the third quarter. A 24-yard punt. Montgomery coming off a career best day last week. Indoors, I'll preface, with an average of 59. Only gets a 24-yarder off there.
You know, I think if the Oilers ultimately lose this game, they're going to wonder about that series and not at least running the ball at least once so the quarter runs out and if they have to punt, they punt with the wind. Instead, now only 11 seconds remaining, and they could have really run the timeout and punted in the fourth quarter with a 20-mile-an-hour wind behind him.
Warren Moon was 19 of 22 for 218 yards in the first half. He is 2 for 7 in the third quarter. And the emotional lift that the Bills have gotten. Their offense has given the defense a reason to hope. And now they're within 4. Handoff to Kenneth Davis running right. He's snowed under for a very short gain. William Fuller. And that'll be the last play of the third quarter. The crowd on their feet at Rich Stadium in Buffalo. The Houston Oilers 35. The Buffalo Bills 31.
And so the Bills fired off 28 straight points after the pick six at the beginning of the quarter. Kevin Kugler back with you in our studios. By the way, if you're wondering why Marv Levy and the Bills decided to go for it on fourth down, trailing by 11 points, remember the 2-point conversion wouldn't be introduced into the NFL for another 2 years. So kicking a field goal at that point still would have left the Bills down by 2 scores. Here at Westwood One, we hope you're enjoying listening back to this 1992 wildcard game between Buffalo and Houston. And we hope you continue to stay safe during this unprecedented time. This is an American Red Cross blood donation alert in association with the NFL. There is currently an ongoing critical need. Healthy blood and platelet donors are asked to give now. Donating blood is safe and can help save lives. Please schedule an appointment by calling 1-800-RED-CROSS today. The fourth quarter is coming up. Houston up by 4, but the Bills have the ball and all the momentum. You're listening to the NFL playoffs on Westwood One.
We begin the final 15 minutes. Well, maybe more, but we begin the final 15 minutes of regulation time. It's 35-31 Houston, and the pass first down play is complete to James Lofton. Boy, Frank Reich, all he's ever been told his whole life is that you can't start. You can't be the man. He's been behind Boom Esiason at Maryland. He's been behind Jim Kelly here in Buffalo. Kelly gets hurt. He's got to step up and start a playoff game. And he has brought the Buffalo Bills back from the dead.
17 of 28, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception for Frank Reich.
Thurman Thomas with a hip injury, not of the game. Kenneth Davis is. Third down and 3. And Reich's got to put it up. Drops back to pass. Thumps it out short, and it is nearly picked off. And should have been picked off. Steve Jackson had his hand on it, and so did Al Smith. And they're both looking at each other like, you know what, I could have had it. The other guy said, no, I should have had it.
Yeah, you know, there's going to be a couple of big plays here. One was the touchdown that was called that when the receiver was out of bounds that the Bills got, and that one, it should have been an interception by Al Smith, the middle linebacker, but Steve Jackson got in his way.
Now, if you're Buffalo, do you fake it? I know it's early in the fourth quarter. Chris Moore, he gets the snap and drives the punt up and hangs up on the win. Fair catch called for by Webster Slaughter, and he fields it at the 8-yard line, which is curious. You let it hit, maybe it goes into the end zone, but the fact is he fair caught it at the 8-yard line, a 37-yard punt. Next Saturday, Pat and I will be in Pittsburgh as the Steelers host the winner of this game. About a half an hour ago, there was no question in our minds it was going to be Houston.
Certainly mine.
And right now, there is serious question as to who's going to win this game.
Yeah, and that's what makes for great playoffs. And I think the Bills, give them some credit. They could have folded their tent when in the opening of the second half, Bubba McDowell intercepts the pass and runs it in for a score. And Frank Reich, a guy who threw that interception, could have, waved it off and walked home. But he didn't. He hung in there and has come back to throw 3 touchdown passes. Actually 4 touchdown passes, 1 to the Oilers and 3 to his guys, and now his team is only 4 points back.
Lorenzo Wyatt had 64 yards rushing in the first half. I don't believe he has a yard here in the second. And Warren Moon's going to put it up on first down from his own 10, throws it out to the right. It is complete to the far side to Leonard Harris. He goes out of bounds at about the 18-yard line. A high percentage pass, picks up about 8 on the play. He's ushered out by James Williams and Marcus Patton.
Yeah, now give the ball to Lorenzo White. 2nd and 2. You're still backed up. The crowd is emotionally charged, as well as the Buffalo Bill defense. Get yourself a first down. Don't find yourself in 3rd and 1. It's 2nd and 1 right now. You have 2 downs to give Lorenzo White a chance to pick up a first.
Jeffries, Harris, and Gibbons to the left. Duncan to the right. Lorenzo White, the one set back behind Moon. White gets the handoff running left. Manages to lunge forward for a first down by about a foot. And he is tackled by Darryl Talley, who held on.
You know, one of the interesting things about football games, I believe, are the adjustments that teams and coaches make. And give Walt Corey and Marv Levy, Walt Corey, the defensive coordinator of the Bills, Marv Levy, the head coach, some credit. They started this game in a 6 defensive back, 4 down lineman set. That did not work. Warren Moon threw for 4 touchdowns in the first half. They came out in a conventional 3 down lineman, 4 linebackers, and 4 defensive backs, and they have done a much better job.
Oilers had 18 first downs in the first half. That was only their second of the second half. Moon over the middle. It is complete to Givens across the 30, 35. He's to the 40, still driving, and finally taken down under a wave of blue shirts at the 47-yard line.
How about Ernest Givens? All 5'9", 172 pounds of him, taking on and confronting about 4 Bill defenders. Ernest Givens, I don't care what you say, he is a tough, physical receiver, even though he is only 172 pounds. 6 catches, 94 yards for Ernest Givens.
First down, Warren Moon and the Oilers from their own 47-yard line. 12:15 to go in the fourth quarter. The Oilers lead 35-31. Leonard Harris in motion. Moon back to throw. Throws it out to the left, and the ball is underthrown and is out of bounds. Hayward Jeffries had it for a moment, but could not keep his feet in bounds. And I'm amazed that, and I think you brought up this point a few moments ago, why not have Lorenzo White run the ball a little bit? Because, first of all, he can.
Yeah.
Second of all, you want to try to have this ball for as long as you can.
Yeah, you're right. With protecting a 4-point lead. And Lorenzo White, the other thing is they've only attempted 1 screen pass to him. Now, Darryl Talley did a great job of breaking that up in the third quarter, but Lorenzo White has had a big year of catching screen passes. And right now the Bills are playing, a conventional zone defense.
Warren Moon faced with a 2nd and 10, and Buffalo looks like they want to come after him and put pressure on him. He dropped back to throw, throws it over the middle. It is complete to Givens inside the 50-yard line to about the 47-yard line.
He fumbled it, but they said he was down by contact.
And so it's going to be short of a first down. To underscore your point about Lorenzo White and his receiving capabilities, he had 641 receiving yards this year. His previous 4 years, he had a total of 616 receiving yards. Of course, 2 years ago, he was 4th in the depth chart behind Alonzo Highsmith, Mike Rozier, and Alan Pinkett. And he has not caught the ball today.
Yeah, 57 catches on the year. And now this becomes a absolutely critical down. 11 and a half minutes of the game. The Oilers up by 4, facing a 3rd and 4.
Moon calling signals. Drops back to throw. Looking for White. He was held, and the pass over the middle is complete to Hayward Jeffries. There's a flag on the play. It's going to be holding on Buffalo. Because Lorenzo White was his primary, and he was held.
Good eyes, Howard. They were trying to get Lorenzo White in the right flat, and I think Phil Hansen, I believe it was Hansen, just grabbed him and tackled him. And that's a good call by the official. Nonetheless, it's a first down.
Number 90 of the defense. Penalty is declined. First down.
Well, the penalty declined, obviously, because Hayward Jeffries made the reception to the 40-yard line, and that will keep the drive alive for the Houston Oilers, and for the moment, silence 75,000-plus partisan Buffalo fans.
Again, we want to mention that 11-13 remaining, a 4-point game. Houston up on top with the wind. That is significant. Having this 20-mile-an-hour wind at their backs.
I must tell you, though, Pat, it looks like it's died down a little bit, but it is still a right-to-left wind. Leonard Harris in motion to the right side. 1st and 10, Houston. And Moon's going to put it up again. Over the middle, he wants it all. Deep down the middle, Hayward Jeffries, incomplete. He had his hands on it. Broken up at the last moment by Nate Odoms. But that was a superbly thrown ball by Warren Moon.
Yeah, it really was, and a terrific play by Nate Odoms, the defensive backs. Now, there may have been contact as the ball was getting to him. No, I think maybe Nate Odoms had his head turned, so it wasn't interference. But the point being is it was a good call because Haywood Jeffries had caught 2 short passes earlier in this quarter. He was well covered on those. They decided, hey, heck with the short ones. Let's go deep and try to go for the touchdown. But Nate Odoms responded and prevented the reception in the touchdown.
Well, Haywood Jeffries has 2 touchdown receptions today. He has caught 6 balls for 97 yards. And Warren Moon, 2nd and 10, goes back to pass, scrambling to the right. Lil looking, pump faking once and sacked back at the 47-yard line by nose tackle Jeff Wright.
Oh, he had Lorenzo White early. He had Lorenzo White early over the middle of the zone defense of the Bills. But because Warren Moon was flushed out, he couldn't find him. He couldn't see him. And when he flushed him out to the right, or when Warren Moon was flushed out to the right, Jeff Wright, the nose tackle, kept a hustling. Didn't quit. Kept scrambling, kept turning, and ultimately made the sack on Warren Moon.
Hansen and Wright come out, replaced by 2 other defensive linemen, Keith Willis and Mike Lodish. 3rd down and 16 for Houston from the 46 of Buffalo. Warren Moon under center, goes back to pass. Lays it down the middle of the field, and it is intercepted by Carlton Bailey. Bailey to the 30. Back he goes to the right. And finally brought down at the 30-yard line. There is a flag on the play. Back in the Oiler backfield.
Personal foul. Roughing the passer. Number 78.
Oh, boy.
15 yards. First down.
Bruce Smith is tagged for a major penalty because it keeps the drive alive with a first down on roughing the passer, and it takes the ball away from the Bills. That would have had it at their own 30-yard line.
Biggest play of the game thus far.
There's no doubt about it. Either you're looking at it on replay, and Bruce Smith really roughed up Warren Moon.
Yeah, it wasn't so much the initial contact, but the way he dragged him down and led head first, Warren Moon's head first. Now, if that's a running back or receiver, that's not a penalty. But when it's a quarterback, it is.
And you could understand the reaction of Marv Levy, not too thrilled. Bruce Smith has come out of the game, replaced by Mark Pike. In his 6th year from Georgia Tech, he replaces the All-Pro Bruce Smith, who's heated as he comes off the field.
Boy, that is the biggest play of this game, because they had him stopped. They had the momentum. They have everything going for them right now, does the Buffalo Bills, except they trail by 4 with 10 minutes remaining in the ball game.
That keeps the drive alive. At the 31 of Buffalo, Moon back to throw. Lays it out to the left, and the ball is tipped and incomplete. Not a great decision by Warren Moon. Nate Odoms knocks it down, but there were 3 blue shirts surrounding the intended receiver, Leonard Harris.
Well, I want to tell you, if Houston goes on to win this game, and it's still in doubt, the Pittsburgh Steelers will definitely have learned something. Because ordinarily you throw a lot of nickel defense and you blitz Warren Moon, but what Buffalo Bills have done this second half is play a 34 defense on first down, zone defense, and they've shut him down pretty good.
10th play of the drive that started at the Houston 10. Moon faced with a 2nd and 10 for the Buffalo 31. Drops back to throw, sets up the screen. It is complete to Lorenzo White. Into the clear, knocked down at the 20-yard line by Keith Willis.
And a hustling, I think, Phil Hansen.
So that is close, if not another first down for the Houston Oilers. Boy, that last penalty, that's the first catch, by the way, of the day. The first screen, as you pointed out, looking for Lorenzo White in an area where he is very productive. That's his first screen pass catch of the day.
But, you know, give Phil Hansen, the defensive end for the Bills, a lot of credit. Here he was rushing the passer, saw the screen pass, hustled downfield, and made the stop. Even though it was a first down, they would have gained another 10 yards had Hansen not hustled.
Ball at the 20. 1st and 10 Oilers at the Buffalo 20. The Oilers lead 35-31 with 9 minutes to go. Here's Lorenzo White on the draw and played well, and yet, despite the fact that it was played so well, Lorenzo White still picks up about 6 or 7 on the play. Mark Maddox makes the tackle.
Warren Moon has to be thinking touchdown because it's a 4-point game now. Just a field goal certainly allows the Buffalo Bills a chance to tie the game and send it into overtime. So what they have to be thinking, the Houston Oilers, with a 35-31 lead and 8:40 remaining in the game, is punch it in for a touchdown. Don't settle for the field goal attempt.
Lorenzo White with 7 yards rushing in the second half, 65 on the first. Warren Moon, second down, back to throw. Runs out to the left, and down he goes. He is sacked by Jeff Wright at the 20-yard line. We are seeing here today what would be best be determined as a old AFL shootout here.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it has been two different games. Houston Oilers in the first half and a thunderous charge by the Bills in the second half.
That's a third quarterback sack by Jeff Wright in this game, the fourth by the Buffalo Bills.
Well, here it is, 3rd and 10. And we talked about them getting the touchdown. They don't necessarily, they still get a first down here as the ball's on the 20-yard line. You can't take the sack, or you certainly cannot throw the interception.
Well, he's gone to Haywood Jeffries in key situations. It's now 3rd and 10 for Warren Moon. And the Bills are coming after him. Back to pass. Steps up, throws it over the middle. It is caught at the 15-yard line. Duncan, or rather Harris, slips out of one tackle, but not the second. He is finally pulled down by Phil Hansen. And Al Del Greco to come on with a field goal try. And this has to boost the Buffalo Bills because they were in real dire jeopardy. And it seems like we've said that all day. And again, on cue, the freezing rain starts to come down again.
Boy. Well, you know, this is an important kick, even though we put them up by 7. A very important kick. And as we've seen before, Howard, Al Del Greco has missed a couple of very significant kicks for the Oilers this year.
It'll be a 32-yard field goal with a slight angle to the left. Montgomery to hold for Al Del Greco. Placement is fumbled. It is loose. Del Greco picks it up, laterals to Montgomery, and he's tackled. The ball is loose. It's picked up by Buffalo.
Calm down.
But he's down. Shane Conlon still running. They're going to down the ball back at the 28-yard line. And the fans, of course, are going wild, but the ball will be brought all the way back to the 28-yard line of Buffalo.
And Al Del Greco got knocked out, or he is woozy. He can barely walk straight to the sidelines. Now, that was not Al Del Greco's fault. Montgomery could not handle the wet ball. It was a good snap, but nonetheless, the Bills are just down by 4.
Back in our Westwood One studios, I'm Kevin Kugler. A wasted opportunity for the Oilers, who finally put a second-half drive together, only to see it slip through the hands of Greg Montgomery. But Houston still up 35-31 with 6:53 left in the fourth quarter. Buffalo will attempt to complete the comeback in this classic from January of 1993 when we return. From Westwood One, this is a special encore presentation of the NFL playoffs.
Women now make up 37%.
Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is Westwood One, your home for the NFL playoffs.
The officials had ruled that Shane Conlon was down back at the 28-yard line, so it'll be Buffalo ball at their own 28 with a lot of time. 6:53 remaining in the fourth quarter, and Houston leading Buffalo 35-31. Believe it or not, Houston was ahead 35-3 early in the third quarter.
Wonderful time right now for a screen pass to Kenneth Davis. They've only thrown one screen pass today to Kenneth Davis, but he gained 23 yards, or 19 yards, on that reception. And it was wide open.
Had another look at it on the replay. Montgomery was tackled by Conlon down at the 28, and that's why they could not go any further. Here's Frank Reich, who has engineered some comeback. Sets up the screen to Kenneth Davis. Nice ball, Pat, across the 30-yard line, and down he goes at the 31. They get about 5 on the play.
Good call.
Wondering if Buffalo were to go on and win this game, you're wondering what the greatest comeback was in playoff history. We've already passed that number if Buffalo wins. It was 20 points. Detroit against San Francisco in 1957. Trailed 27-7 and went on to win the game 31-27. That's a record for postseason play. The Bills were down by 32. A gain of 6. 2nd down and 4. Buffalo at their own 32-yard line. The clock continues to move with 6:10 to play.
Really time for Ray Childress, defensive tackle, for Houston to do something.
Here's Reich. Slant. Complete and dropped. Oh, Beebe had it. He had it and dropped it. Don Beebe, who has 1 touchdown reception today, had that one in his hands, and boy, would he like to have it back.
Oh, was that a perfect throw by Frank Reich to Don Beebe on the right side on a slant. He catches it, and I want to tell you, he's going to gain an additional 20 yards because he's going full speed, and had the defensive back, Chris Dishman, beaten, but dropped it, and now Frank Reich faces 3rd and 4.
Bills going into a stiff wind here in the 4th quarter. As James Lofton goes out wide to the left, Don Beebe to the right, and the slot receiver Andre Reed, who's already caught 111 yards worth of passes today and 2 scores. He's in the slot to the left side. It's 3rd down and 4. Houston with 6 men on the line of scrimmage.
Yep, they're going to call a blitz, and Frank Reich called a timeout. Good play, good heads-up play by Frank Reich.
You're listening to the NFL playoffs from CBS Radio Sports. Houston, the only team in the NFL to qualify for the playoffs the last 6 years. But their record on the road in their playoff history is not a good one. It's 5-9. And right now they do lead 35-31. But can they recall the first minute and a half of the 3rd quarter when they led 35-3? What a comeback. So far, if Buffalo wins, it's the greatest in NFL playoff history. Inside handoff. Running right is Kenneth Davis across the 35 to the 40. He's gone. And he gets tripped from behind. He was going all the way and got tripped up at the last moment by Steve Jackson to the Houston 33-yard line. A 35-yard run by Kenneth Davis.
A terrific call that got started. Did Kenneth Davis as a little draw play on 3rd and 4. It was a funny handoff that he slipped and he slid around a little bit, picked up a couple of nice blocks, and then ran through an arm tackle. And it was a diving stop by Steve Jackson, who just got that right hand on right around his feet that prevented the touchdown run.
Frank Reich brings him to the line of scrimmage after the 35-yard run. 1st down, 5:20 remaining. Hand off to Davis running left. Trying to go to the outside, and he is ankle tackled on the play by Sean Jones for about a gain of a half a yard, and that's about all. Meanwhile, the timeout story is Buffalo has just 1 left. That's not an issue right now, but they have 1 left.
Right. With a 4-point game, though, the Bills are in what I would call a 4-down zone. You're going to have 4 downs, and so your play selection perhaps is a little bit different than it would be if you're going to thinking about a field goal.
2nd down and 10, Buffalo. 33 of Houston. Right back. Quick drop out to the left. Complete. To the far sideline. Don Beebe. Shy of the 25-yard line.
Gray made the stop.
Jerry Gray knocks him down. Gray has had a rough day today. He has been toasted a couple of times for scores. And the clock continues to move with 4:25 to play in the game.
But here's a perfect example of what we were just talking about. With a 4-point game and a field goal does you no good. You have 2 downs to get 2 yards. And you aren't afraid to perhaps to run it 2 times if need be.
Well, they're going out of a shotgun formation. That is now Reich steps under center. Even out of a shotgun, it has never deterred them from running the ball.
Yeah, they're very effective running out of the shotgun formation.
Davis steps behind Reich. Back to passes Reich. Pumps it over the middle. It is complete to Andre Reed for a 1st down. Inside the 20-yard line to the 17. And the drive moves forward for the Buffalo Bills with 3:45 remaining. And they trail Houston 35-31.
When Warren Moon had a big first half, his offensive line played great. This second half, Frank Reich has been sensational. The offensive line have done a beautiful job of protecting Frank Reich and giving him the opportunity to find some wide receivers who are coming open. And once again, Andre Reed catching the ball on a critical down, on a 3rd down, over the middle.
Beebe to the left. Reed and Lofton to the right. Reich is 15 of 22 for 216 yards this half. Back to throw. Over the middle. It is caught for a touchdown. Andre Reed. Andre Reed for the score. And Buffalo leads by the score of 37-35.
Unbelievable again. And the Houston Oilers coaches, again, who are in the next booth from us, including their defensive backfield coach, Pat Thomas, discussed it. But, Andre Reed, in between hash marks, has basically owned the NFL for 3 or 4 years. He did it again on the right side, beat his man early on a little inside move, then ran a post route and caught it for the touchdown.
He torches Robertson and Jackson as he splits them, and Christie's extra point is good. It's a 3-point game, and Buffalo on top. 38-35, 3:08 remaining in the fourth.
And just like that, for the first time in this game, the Bills claim the lead. Kevin Kugler back with you in our studios. Andre Reed has the last 3 touchdowns for Buffalo. Those 3 touchdown catches, they equaled his total for the entire 1992 regular season. But there was plenty of time left. Warren Moon and the Oilers get the ball for the final time in the fourth quarter when we return. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs on Westwood One.
Pros.
With Pat Haden, I'm Howard David. We are seeing so far the most miraculous comeback in playoff history in this league. 32 points. The Bills were down. They now lead 38-35. Here's the kickoff by Christie. Rolling around, picked up by a defensive lineman at the 25. He cradles the ball and goes down at the 28-yard line. John Flannery. And so now with exactly 180 seconds remaining in regulation time.
Well, Howard, I was absolutely wrong when I said at the beginning of the second half that the Houston Oilers had this thing won. It was 35-3 at the time. The Bills could have easily collapsed. They did not. Their defense changed assignments. They went to a 34-play zone. That worked. Frank Reich got hot. The offensive line protected him. The wide receivers, particularly Andre Reed, all of a sudden became wide open over the middle. And that has been the difference of the turnaround as the Bills lead by 3 with 3 minutes remaining.
Nearly 80,000 in a frenzy at Rich Stadium. Warren Moon. Back to pass. Back to the 20. Throws it out to the right. It is complete to Curtis Duncan. He goes out of bounds on the far side at about the 33-yard line. Marcus Patton ushers him to the Houston Oilers sideline.
Howard, I want to make another point that I mentioned earlier. On the failed field goal attempt that the Houston Oilers tried just a few moments ago, Al Del Greco, their kicker, took a shot. He wobbled off the field. He may be called on here shortly to try to tie the game. And I don't know whether he's gotten his senses back. But when he kind of wobbled off that field, he certainly did not have them.
A gain of 5. Second down and 5. Houston at their own 33. 2:54 to go in the fourth. Warren Moon back to pass. Dumps it over the middle. It is complete for a first down and more at the 40-yard line to Ernest Givens, who gets wrapped up by Phil Hansen. And a first down for Warren Moon. He is a veteran. He has been to these wars before, but even Moon, in his great career, has never seen a turnabout like this.
Yeah, he is not. You're right, and it's numbing. If you're a quarterback, it is absolutely numbing. But he is not panicked. They're not even running their 2-minute offense. 2:25 remaining in the game. They're huddling, and now they break out of the huddle again.
Moon calling signals under center. Lorenzo White is one setback. Back to pass goes Moon. Throws it out to the right. It is complete, short to Webster Slaughter to the far sidelines and goes out of bounds at the 49-yard line of Houston. 2 yards shy of a first down. Marcus Patton shows him away. For Warren Moon, you know that old cliche of taking what they give you? That's exactly what he's doing now. If he sees it for 8-9 yards, he's not in a hurry. There's still 2:09 to go. He has all 3 timeouts left, plus the 2-minute warning.
And for the Bills, they can't get, you know that prevent defense that everybody says that prevents you from winning. You can't get too conservative on defense. You have to play a little bit tighter in those zone defenses.
Keith Gogenius is in the game, a rookie from Penn State at linebacker for Buffalo. Second down and 2. Moon going to put it up again. Dumps it over the middle. It is complete for a first down to Ernest Givens, and he goes to the near sideline and out of bounds at the 40-yard line with 2:01 remaining. Along with Pat Haden, I'm Howard David here at Rich Stadium in Buffalo. Ernest Givens has 9 receptions for 119 yards. More importantly, the Buffalo Bills lead the Houston Oilers 38-35. Yes, if you tuned out early in the third quarter, it was 35-3 Houston. Buffalo has scored 35 unanswered points. Flags fly, and that'll call a halt to the play before it unfolds.
Left tackle Don Maggs moved early.
Well, it'll be 1st and 15 if it's against Houston.
Before the snap, false start, number 78. 5 yards. It's still first down.
Now they put back to 1 second, so it's still 2:01 to go before the end, before we come to the 2-minute warning. 1 second before the 2-minute warning. Said earlier, if you just tuned in, the greatest comeback in playoff history was only a 20-point comeback. Detroit and San Francisco back in 1957. That was the year that Detroit won the World Championship. That was before Super Bowls. Now Buffalo has come back and lead 38-35. And Warren Moon with a 1st and 15. Goes back to pass. Sets up the screen over the middle. That is caught by Webster Slaughter. He goes to the far sideline and goes out of bounds at the 36-yard line. That will take us to the 2-minute warning. 1:55 remaining. It's 38-35 Buffalo over Houston.
Kevin Kugler here in our Westwood One studios. The Oilers down by 3 with one last chance to answer the Bills' improbable comeback in this classic from January of 1993. We'll get you back to Howard David and Pat Haden for the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter when we return. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs on Westwood One.
The year was 1919. Barbasol shaving cream was invented by a dreamer named Frank Shields. The world's first modern shave cream, Barbasol changed the face of shaving forever. A few billion shaves later, Frank's dream lives on. Behind every face is a dream. Barbasol proudly salutes every fearless, self-assured, wide-eyed dreamer all across America. Celebrating 100 years. Barbasol.
Welcome back to Sports View. Today's topic, who deserves to win big this season? My 2 cents, good drivers. I mean, that's why there's Snapshot from Progressive. Let's go to Rick for some confusing metaphors.
Look, if you put a classically trained cellist in a garage band and you tell him to play filet mignon, I guarantee you, the meat on that burrito ain't gonna light the candle.
Thanks for clarifying, Rick.
If you're a good driver, there's no other way to say it. You deserve discounts with Snapshot. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Snapshot not available in California, North Carolina, or from all agents.
With Pat Haden, I'm Howard David. Warren Moon is 32 of 43 for 344 yards.
Well, that means nothing right now, though. I mean, he has had a spectacular game, as has Frank Reich, as have the offensive lines for both teams. But now with 1:55 remaining, he still has all 3 timeouts. So the time is not going to be the issue. The issue are a couple things. The health of Al Del Greco, who was injured a little bit earlier. He may be called on for the game-tying field goal attempt. And can they continue to manufacture some first downs? They face 2nd and 6 right now.
I think the Del Greco factor may be the biggest, and that's something that Moon obviously is cognizant of. 2nd down and 6 for Houston. Back to passes Warren Moon. Throws it out to the right. It is complete to Curtis Duncan, looking for the far sideline. He gets out of bounds.
That's a terrible play by Curtis Duncan.
Well, the reason why it's a terrible play is because all he had to do was go back upfield. He gets a first down. Instead, he went for the sidelines. And with Buffalo, or rather Houston, having all 3 timeouts left.
Time is not a factor. Time is not an issue for them. He's trying to save the clock, but he gained no yards. I mean, that was just a dumb play.
Well, he gained actually 2, but it is 3rd down and 4. But you're right. He should have gone straight upfield, and something you have to be aware of. If the ball comes to me, what do I do?
Precisely. And knowing that you have 3 timeouts, you can use one of those timeouts.
So now it's 3rd and 4 for Houston. Givens in motion to the near side. Moon back to pass. Throws it over the middle. It is tipped in the air and incomplete. And so now it is 4th down.
See, Al Del Greco.
Well, Del Greco started to come on the field. Now, it's to see if, first of all, if they tried a field goal, it would be a 51-yard field goal at least.
Yeah, and he has missed 2 game-winning field goals this year. But I want to go back to the play to Curtis Duncan. I mean, that's a key play. That was a key play. Another key play, Howard, that we're going to hear about tomorrow is the Buffalo touchdown when Don Beebe stepped out of bounds. There will be a call for instant replay tomorrow.
Moon, 4th down and 4. And the Buffalo fans on their feet. Moon back to throw. Looking over the middle. Setting it up over the middle. It is complete inside the 20-yard line to Webster Slaughter. He's to the 16-yard line. The tremendous composure of Warren Moon. He never flustered. There was bodies flying all around him. He stayed in the pocket and found Webster Slaughter.
You're so right, Howard. That is so hard to do when there's that much pressure on you. There's that much commotion, that many bodies flying around. He just hung and hung and hung in there in the pocket. Finally found Webster Slaughter for the first.
Moon 7 for 8 on this drive. That started at the 28 of the Oilers. They have it now at the 16 of Buffalo with 59 seconds to go. Moon back to throw. Throwing it deep into the end zone, and it is overthrown. He just threw it away. That stops the clock with 52 seconds to play. And the Oilers trailing by 3. They are certainly within range of Al Del Greco now. It would be about a 33-yard field goal.
Al Del Greco, as we mentioned, has missed 2 game-winning field goals, one against Pittsburgh early in the year, missed a 3rd field goal in Miami that would have tied it. So I know this coaching staff would strongly prefer to see Warren Moon get it in the end zone.
2nd down and 10. Moon brings his lineman to the line of scrimmage at the 16-yard line with Lorenzo White behind him. Nice bad play for a screen pass. And back to play. They go to the draw play to White, running right inside the 15 to the 11-yard line. Oh, had the right guy, just the wrong play call. And a Houston Oilers, with all of their timeouts left, spend one of them here. 43 seconds remaining in regulation time. And next Saturday, where earlier this afternoon, about an hour ago, you and I were pretty convinced that it was, and anybody with any kind of sanity left would be pretty well convinced to be Pittsburgh hosting Houston at 12:15 at Three Rivers Stadium next Saturday. But now there's no certainty of that. The Buffalo Bills have seen to that fact.
Well, you know, Howard, you start football camp in mid-July. You go through the double days, the hard times, the practices, a 16-game schedule after a grueling preseason. You find yourself in a new year, January 3rd, and it comes down really maybe to one play. And this is it, 3rd and 5.
Warren Moon has already broken a record for most completions in a postseason game with 34. He broke a record that was jointly held by Dan Fouts and Bernie Kosar. That means nothing but a line in the record book. Here it is. Back to passes Moon. Slips out of a tackle running. Inside the 10. Moon dives to the 8-yard line. With 35, 34, 33 seconds. Ticking off. 31 seconds. And they'll bring the field goal unit out as it's 4th down and 3. And this a field goal certainly within the range of Del Greco, but you pointed out that he's missed some clutch field goals this year.
Yeah, and remember the last one. The punter, the holder, missed the snap on a good one. It was a slick ball as the Bills call timeout. So you have a holder who's not terribly confident right now, Howard. You have a kicker, maybe, you hope he's not thinking about those field goals he missed. But he's been in this situation before this year and has not delivered. But he's going to have a virtual chip shot.
Compared to the last time they tried a field goal, the last time they tried the field goal and the snap was mishandled, there was a driving, freezing rain coming down. Now it's stopped. So that certainly is much more to Houston's favor as they try to tie this game with 15 seconds to play in the fourth quarter. It's 38-35.
You know, this is one of the things I don't like about NFL football, though. We've had a marvelous game of touchdowns. And when you get down to the end of the game, a fellow Al Del Greco that's maybe played 6 or 7 plays this entire game will be the featured player. I don't like that about football.
You're a purist.
Thank you.
You also don't like indoor stadiums.
I don't. I mean, it's nice up here.
Well, there's nothing funny about what's going on now. Certainly not for Buffalo after the comeback that they've made. This is going to be a 27-yard field goal to tie it. Talk about a key play. Snap, placement, kick. All three have to work. Placement down. The kick is away. It's got enough distance, and we are tied at 38 with 12 seconds remaining in regulation time. And doesn't it seem appropriate?
Oh, my.
Boy, you talk about a clutch field goal, I think.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a 27-yard field goal by Del Greco with 12 seconds left. You can't get more clutch than that. I mean, if you miss it, it's something you're going to wallow in for a whole off season, and you don't want that feeling. It tears your guts right out if you have to eat it for the whole off season. And so now it all comes down to 12 seconds. Buffalo has no timeouts left. And do they take their chances and get it into overtime, or they try to make something happen right now?
Well, I think it all depends on where they receive the ball. I mean, if they try to squib it, for example, and they were able to get the ball, near the 40-yard line, I think you have to try something. I mean, there's no guarantee that you're going to win it in overtime. So I think to get reasonably good field position, you give it a shot.
The great first half by Moon, the great second half by Reich. If you put the stats together of these two quarterbacks, you'd have an impossible number to ever match.
Hall of Fame, and after I directed Bill Cowher to start preparing for the Houston Oilers, he had to put a stop to that.
Yeah.
They're all watching and perhaps enjoying this game as well. I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You were probably standing next to Noah when it was on the 39th day of rain and said, "Don't worry, it's going to stop."
Oh, what a game, though. It's been fun to watch.
Have you made any other great decisions in your life?
Yeah, I got all that IBM stock just a little while ago.
How about that new Studebaker you're driving around? Oh, here's Del Greco to kick it off. A high kick. It'll be taken by Kenneth Davis, who's had a big hand in this comeback. He fumbles it and falls down alertly at the 7-yard line. And we have 9 seconds to play in regulation time, and I'm certain that Marv Levy has told Frank Reich, hey, let's just take our chances at OT.
Who would have thought that Buffalo, not only down 35-3, but without Jim Kelly, without Thurman Thomas, would come back and be able to tie this thing? I mean, this is a sensational game and an absolutely wonderful comeback by the Buffalo Bills. And everybody had a hand in it. Offensive linemen, we've talked about Frank Reich. We've talked about Kenneth Davis. Darryl Talley's been terrific on defense.
And Reich downs it on one knee, so we're going to go to OT. And 78,000 are on their feet at Rich Stadium. And they have a reason to cheer. Their club has come back from the dead and tied it going to overtime.
Of course, 60 minutes wasn't enough to decide this all-time classic. Kevin Kugler back here in our studios. Overtime of the 1992 wildcard game between Buffalo and Houston is just ahead. The score is tied at 38. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs on Westwood One.
Okay.
Welcome back to tonight's edition of Great NFL Postseason Games here on Westwood One. I'm Kevin Kugler. We hope you're enjoying this rebroadcast of the 1992 wildcard game between Buffalo and Houston. Make a difference this draft through the NFL Draft-A-Thon, a 3-day virtual fundraiser to provide relief for those significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Watch the 2020 NFL Draft on ESPN, ABC, or NFL Network starting next Thursday, April 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern, or visit NFL.com/relief to learn how you can join us in this effort. Before we send you back for the start of overtime, a quick reminder. This game was before the current overtime rules. Back in the 1992 season, it was strictly sudden death. The first score of any kind would end the game. And because this is the playoffs, obviously, no ties. They play 15-minute periods until someone scores. Houston won the toss and elected to receive, hoping to avoid becoming the first team in NFL postseason history to blow a lead larger than 20 points. Back to Howard David and Pat Haden.
Well, certainly the Buffalo fans, and they all get to their feet again, cheering on their club. I know cliches are time-worn, but this is a ball club that really never quit. Usually it's the defense that gets the offense going. today for Buffalo, it was the offense that got the defense motivated.
And Steve Christie's onside kick.
Yep.
The kicker.
Special teams.
The kicker really started the turnaround when he had an onside kick, which he recovered.
So Darrell Lewis and Gary Brown are back to await the kickoff of Steve Christie. Christie had a terrific career at William & Mary. I remember doing a college game at Princeton once. William & Mary and Princeton, and Christie missed a 55-yard field goal because he hit the upright halfway up. So, and I'm telling you,
it's a big leg.
Oh, wait, so as soon as I saw that, I said, this guy doesn't wind up in the NFL, I'll be amazed. Well, here he is, kicking off with a wind to his back to either Darrell Lewis or Gary Brown. We are in overtime in this AFC Wildcard _wild. It's 38 all. And the kickoff is driven out of the end zone. They'll bring it out to the 20-yard line. Well, Warren Moon is the consummate professional on and off the field. Everybody knows about Moon and his charitable work. He has been the NFL Man of the Year. He is a classy individual. He is a great quarterback, obviously. His composure in the last drive tells you all you need to ever know about Warren Moon as a football player.
Yeah, on the critical fourth down situation, when he hung in there in the pocket, under duress on fourth down and waited for Webster Slaughter to come open. That was as good a play as you're going to see a quarterback make under pressure.
Jeffries to the left, Duncan to the right, Slaughter and Gibbons the slot receivers. And White, the lone setback behind Warren Moon. From the Houston 20, Moon back to throw. Dumps it off. It's complete to Duncan underneath the coverage at about the 24-yard line. A 4-yard gain in front of James Williams. Now, Williams becomes key now with the injury to Kirby Jackson. You wonder if that's the side of the field that Moon likes to play.
Well, they've been playing the Bills since their adjustment starting the second half. Just a very vanilla 34 defense with 4 defensive backs, unlike the scheme they started, and they're just playing zone. So James Williams is really not guarding anybody man for man. He has the short zone in the flat.
3 receivers to the left. Now Gibbons comes in motion to the right side. 2nd down and 6. Houston at their own 24. Moon drops straight back to pass. Dumps it off to Duncan underneath the coverage again, and he's driven out of bounds at about the 26-yard line. And so now comes the first of many key plays in this overtime. A 3rd down and about 3 for Houston.
You know, I'm real surprised with this zone defense that they're not using Lorenzo White more on screens. I mean, he's had some success today. Not enough on the screen because they haven't used him much. But he's had a big year running screen passes. Remember the come from behind win against Cleveland earlier in the year. It was a big screen play, but they have not used him much.
Moon disdaining a shotgun, goes under center. 3rd down and 3, Houston at their own 27-yard line. Moon back to pass, looking over the middle with a lot of time, throws it out to the left, and the pass is intercepted at the 35-yard line by Nate Odoms. Odoms reverses his field back to the left, and finally down at the 35-yard line, and there's a flag on the play. Another flag may get a personal foul against Houston.
Oh, my.
The intended receiver, and I didn't catch who it was initially, fell down as the ball was thrown.
He just slipped. Oh, no, there's still a brawl going on at midfield.
There's a melee breaking out.
I tell you, the Buffalo players are really making a mistake if they get a flag thrown on them, because I believe the personal foul is against Houston, which will put them in field goal range to win the game.
Kevin Kugler back in our studios. Pat was exactly right. Just one penalty was called, a 15-yard face mask against Haywood Jeffries of Houston. So it was 1st and 10 for Buffalo at the Oilers' 20-yard line after the interception and the penalty. But remember, this Bills team had experience with missed game-winning field goals. Scott Norwood's 47-yard kick that went wide right in the final seconds of Super Bowl 25 2 seasons earlier, that's still fresh in their minds. Steve Christie was hoping to avoid a similar fate. Back to Howard David and Pat Haden for the finish of this wild card classic from January of 1993.
Well, here's a game that has shattered the record book. The only thing that matters now is which team is going to Pittsburgh to play. They go to Kenneth Davis running right for the 20 and bounced hard. See, that's the one thing. Here's Lamar Lathan or Carlton Bailey. I was correct the first time. That was Al Smith who made the tackle. he fumbles the ball there, it's a problem, obviously.
I was surprised, Howard, that he didn't have both hands over the ball. I mean, he just was carrying the ball regularly. But they're gonna run another play here. Maybe just a quarterback sneak. But you're right. At this point, if you're gonna run the ball that way, you might as well kick it.
He got about 2 to the 18. Right now, it's about a 35-yard field goal, certainly within Christie's leg. And with the wind to his back, it is clearly in front of him. And it's Kenneth Davis who handles it to about the 15, and the Oilers trying to dislodge the ball.
Kicking on third down.
And here comes Steve Christie.
And Howard, this is the right call. You kick it on third down, because if you have a mishandled snap, you just fall on it and you kick it on fourth down.
All right, where they put the ball? They'll put it on about the 14-yard line, so it'll be about a 31-yard field goal by Steve Christie and Frank Reich to hold. Keep in mind, Reich is the quarterback. And this will be a little longer. It's about a 32-yard field goal, and a timeout will be taken. I think the Oilers are going to try to ice Christie. We are 3 minutes and 2 seconds into the overtime session. This is, if it's successful, the most outstanding comeback, point differential-wise, in playoff history. It would be from a 32-point deficit in the first minute and a half of the third quarter, no less, after Bubba McDowell intercepted a pass and went for a touchdown. See, that was the thing. The defense scores the touchdown and puts you down 32. You'd see nothing but hung helmets around here, and they never gave up.
Just an absolute remarkable turnaround. As we said, everybody had a hand in it. Coaches for the adjustments on defense. Give Marv Levy and Walt Corey some credit for that. We talked about the special teams and how the onside kick by Steve Christie got it started. And, of course, Frank Reich and the offensive lineman and Kenneth Davis have had a large say in it as well.
So here we go. The game is right now on the leg of Steve Christie. First on the hold of Frank Reich. A 32-yard try for the win. He drives it through the uprights. And it's over. It is over. Steve Christie erases the memory of Scott Norwood in Buffalo. And so at 3:58 Eastern Time in Buffalo's Rich Stadium, Steve Christie completes the most dramatic comeback in playoff history with a 32-yard field goal. And the Bills will go to Buffalo and keep their season alive. 41-38, Buffalo beats Houston.
It remains the greatest comeback in NFL playoff history. The Bills with an improbable 41-38 win over Houston back in January of 1993. Kevin Kugler back in our Westwood One studios. Coming up on the postgame show, we'll hear from Frank Reich, Andre Reed, Marv Levy, and Warren Moon on this great NFL postseason game. You're listening to the NFL Playoffs on Westwood One. Welcome back to great NFL postseason games. I'm your host, Kevin Kugler, and we have just heard what is still the greatest comeback in playoff history, the 1992 wildcard game between the Oilers and Bills. After Frank Reich's interception was returned for a touchdown, 1:41 into the third quarter, Buffalo was down 35-3. And not even Bills head coach Marv Levy thought they would be able to pull off the comeback.
Did I think we still had a chance? Well, there was a lot of time left, and there's a glimmer of a hope, but, I mean, it's about the same chance you have to win the New York lottery.
Well, I guess the Bills hit the jackpot then. They scored 35 unanswered points in the second half before Houston tied it to force overtime. 3 of those touchdowns were scored by wide receiver Andre Reed, who finished the day with 136 yards. The Hall of Famer reflected on what sparked the turnaround.
You know, if you talk to a lot of the Oilers players at that time, they said, well, we made a lot of mistakes. And I said, well, it isn't a mistake unless you capitalize on it. And we capitalized on all the mistakes they made. And obviously our crowd was a big factor. And mind you, the week before we played down in Houston and got beat pretty good by them down there. So they had to come to Buffalo. So we had that on our side. And, you know, we just came out flat again. And, you know, it was up to us to try to make save face and try to make some kind of game out of it. And I think each individual, not only didn't we want to go home in that manner, we wanted to go on to the next round. And, Frank Reich, here's a guy that orchestrated the greatest comeback in college and did it in the pros.
The comeback Reed is referring to? Reich came off the bench to lead Maryland to a 31-point come-from-behind win over Miami as a senior in November of 1984. Somehow, Reich bested that in the pros with a 32-point comeback in his first postseason start. The man who's now the head coach for the Indianapolis Colts was 16 for 23, 230 yards, and 4 touchdown passes in the second half. And years later, he reflected on the performance.
They just let up ever so slightly and let our foot in the door. And, it's not like they quit playing. I mean, these are professionals. And, again, we didn't just all of a sudden come back in one play, but it was like boom, 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 boom. Just one first down, a second first down, and then, quick touchdown. And then a turnover, and another quick touchdown. Oh, it's still okay. But then it was too late. Then Rich Stadium started going crazy. And the momentum came to our side, and we just kind of kept pressing, and eventually were able to come back.
Much to the dismay of the Houston Oilers. After dominating the first half, Houston decided to keep it in the air to protect the lead in the second half, dialing up 19 pass plays to just 3 runs before Buffalo eventually took the lead. And while that may haunt Warren Moon, it's nothing compared to what he thinks this team could have accomplished that season.
We let one get away. I thought that team was good enough to go to a Super Bowl. We had beaten the Dallas Cowboys earlier in the season, a team that won the Super Bowl, and beat them pretty good. So we felt like we could play and beat anybody in the league. And we had just beaten Buffalo the week before in Houston, the last game of the season. And then we had to come back and play them up there in the playoffs and got off to a great start. And that was something that we knew we had to do going up there because of their crowd and how they fed off their crowd, that we had to get a lead early.
They did get that lead, but failed to hold on. The nucleus of this Oilers team would only last one more season. After losing to Joe Montana and the Chiefs in the divisional round the following year, the team was broken up. A few years later, in 1997, the franchise moved to Tennessee and eventually changed their name to the Titans. Football would come back to Houston in the form of the expansion Texans in 2002, but the city is still looking for its first AFC championship. As for the Bills, the greatest comeback in postseason history propelled them towards a third of 4 straight Super Bowl appearances. But they lost to the Dallas Cowboys that season in Super Bowl 27 and again the next year in Super Bowl 28. Buffalo has not returned since, still searching for that elusive Super Bowl title. We'll wrap things up when we return from Westwood One. This is a special encore presentation of the NFL playoffs.
So here we go. The game is right now on the leg of Steve Christie. First on the hold of Frank Reich, a 32-yard try for the win. He drives it through the uprights, and it's over. It is over.
The final score, the Buffalo Bills defeat the Houston Oilers 41-38 in overtime, completing the biggest comeback in playoff history. Tonight's special rebroadcast of the 1992 NFL Wildcard playoff game on Westwood One has been sponsored by Progressive Insurance, by Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds, by Lowe's, and by NFL.com. We'd like to thank our crew who put this broadcast together. Production assistance provided by Mark Sipe and Corey Spector. Our producers, Brian Finkelstein, Michael Martino, and Aaron Cummins. Coordinating producers Larry Costigan and Mike Eby. The executive producer of the NFL on Westwood One is Howard Deneroff. The announcers for the 1992 NFL Wildcard playoff game were Howard David and Pat Haden. Join us again Monday night for another NFL postseason classic. It's Super Bowl 42 between the New York Giants and the New England Patriots. Marv Albert, Boomer Esiason, Kevin Kiley, John Dockery, and Jim Gray will have all the action beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern on many of these same Westwood One stations or via the TuneIn mobile app. Once again, the final score from the 1992 NFL Wildcard playoffs. The Buffalo Bills 41, the Houston Oilers 38 in overtime. Buffalo comes back from 32 points down in the third quarter. I'm Kevin Kugler. Thanks for joining us. You've been listening to an encore presentation of the NFL playoffs on Westwood One.